you getting yourself ready for our show?
Guys, Jigs and Bigs, it's another Tuesday. We got an amazing show lined up for you. It is August. August is already here. We got stuff to talk about with that, specifically with August, something that's going on that's a little bit odd, but that means really great shit for the future. You're not going to want to miss this, guys. We got Joe, who the fuck is Joe Brown with us? We got Sean the Fisherman in the house with us. In the beef seat this week, we have Cody Dobberstein, and Cody is the face of Reaction Tackle. He's handling all the social media duties and everything. He's doing a great job. We talk a little bit about fishing, but we talk a lot about Reaction Tackle as a company, and they've sort of been in the background here at Jigs and Bigs HQ for quite a while as far as fueling up my fishing adventures. But come to find out, they've also been kind of working alongside with Sean the Fisherman in a surprise way. You'll find out all about that, plus some really, really great stuff. We got other stuff that we got to talk about. The boys over at Dark Horse Tackle, they gave us a task to come up with a Jigs and Bigs themed box, and we have the whiteboard out. We're having meetings every single 3-4 hours. It is out of this world. Trust, we're taking this very seriously for you guys because we love you. We're talking crankbaits and bait of the week. We got a good Just tip for you guys, especially if you're tournament anglers, and an FTG that involves what we're coining as a term of ramp rage. That's coming up in our second segment, guys. Got so much good stuff. Plus, announcing winners for our raffles. We've got great prizes to give away for all of you folks that were entered in the July multi-species tournament. You're not going to want to miss it, guys. We got much more Jigs and Bigs coming right up after this. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Jigs and Bigs. It's a good week. It is August. This is the first Tuesday in August, and or is it? Or was it August? I think actually it's the second Tuesday in August. Now that I think about it, I think so. I think last Tuesday was August 1st. Now I'm all confused, and I need to look at the calendar. Yes, it was. So this is the second Tuesday in August, everybody. Yay! We're halfway through the month now. You might notice that something is odd. That there's no online tournament this month. And I've had people have asked about it this week. So there is no chronic trips lined up that would regularly be scheduled here. We've kind of stepped back from doing the chronic trip stuff, but we have information coming up later in the show about what's exactly happening and what's going to take its place. And also, what does the face of the tournament series look like? Because there are changes coming. We got information coming up there for you. How are you boys doing today?
Good morning, Bobby.
Good morning, Sean.
Phenomenal. I'm used to talking to you guys in the morning. I don't know if I like it.
I know it's got a different feel.
It's so funny. I get up extremely early for work, and I've been doing this 20 years. I'm just not a morning person.
Oh yeah.
Even yesterday, heading out to the tournament, I'm all grumpy. I just fucking hate being up in the morning.
I hear you. I
do it.
Yeah.
I force myself because it's what I love to do. But
sure.
I'm just not a morning person.
It's like, I'll tell you, I had a situation like that. It was yesterday morning. I had a wedding on Saturday night, which is an amazing, amazing wedding. Jason Page, congratulations. Awesome party. It went it was just nonstop. And what was great about working with this couple was that, especially the bride, she knew exactly what she wanted. And she got it. It was dead on. But that dance floor was insane. We did the newlywed game. I saw the butcher at that wedding. Yeah, the butcher was into. Yeah, the butcher, Madam Butcher, and Baby Butcher were all at the wedding, and they stayed all night long. It was awesome.
Oh, sick!
The butcher's on
them.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
If I could ever bring a baby to a wedding.
I know, but she was great.
That's awesome. You could tell she's a great kid.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great baby.
I did ask him. I was like, "So you guys gonna go for another one, or what's the deal?" He's like, "I don't know, man. It's she's such a good baby. We don't want to jinx it. And I was like, Dad, that you are wiser than your years.
Yeah.
Fuck around and find out. That's what happens. That's what happens, man. The odds of getting two fantastic babies, like, you better just start a career in World Series of Poker at that point, because you're a lucky sumbitch. What an amazing week. This week with no tournament, I only got out a total of 3 times, and one of those was kind of accidental in a weird way, but I'll finish that. Do you guys want to jump in and talk about your weeks before I jump in and start laying down some shit?
Well, I got some big news. You want me to start with that?
Yeah, go for it.
Go for it.
So I got back on the water this week.
Well, that was fast.
No, it was not. It was a month and a half, which in the middle of the summer, I've never done that before.
That's true. That's true.
I was like almost 50 days I was off the water or so.
We were thinking it was going to be a good solid 300.
That's pretty good. I was expecting it to be a little longer, and I was totally fine with it as well.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I had thought that I really was going to try and give it a break, and I wanted to see how I felt about a couple things. And really the big thing was I made a commitment at the beginning of the year for a tournament that I paid for with my main man and, jig head Loaded Potato. And he's like the greatest dude in the world, and I was not going to dish out on him on a tournament we paid for. Although it did cross my mind to just pay for his entry fee and let my entry fee go to someone who wanted, really was into it. But I said, I'll try to get out. And my youngest had asked me to go fishing. Now that's where I put my own feelings about the water aside and what was going on, and going fishing with him. I love, my youngest and I have a lot in common with pastimes. He's the basketball player of the two of my sons, and we end up spending quite a bit of time together doing this stuff. And I said, well, let me take a step back before it makes it look like I'm abandoning my older son. My older son and I have different entertainment pastimes that we, with the pro wrestling, and we'll go to concerts every now and again. So we do that, but my youngest son and I are basketball, more sports oriented. So my youngest son said, well, let's go out fishing one day. And I said, okay. And I grabbed a couple kayaks, and we got out for about an hour. There was some road construction going on towards the lake that we wanted to fish at. And I had to take a detour and ended up pre-fishing at the lake where the tournament was, just for an hour, right around dusk, just to get back on the water. It was calm. There weren't a lot of wreck boats. It was pretty nice for an hour. And I said, okay, I can do this. Grabbed a snack on the way back. This worked out. So it was a really good hour in the water.
Yep.
And then tournament day came this past Saturday. And man, it's always fun fishing with Loaded Potato, but it's like, this was the nail in the coffin. I have absolutely had it with 8-hour, be at a place, fixed destination, fixed time tournaments. I think if I'm going to fish tournaments ever again, it's going to be fish where you want for a month, fish as your schedule allows.
Online,
if you want to fish dusk, if you want to fish night, that's great. Like the stuff I fucking saw on this lake, I called you when I got off the water, Bobby, and Joe, you're going to love this. I'm going to go ahead and spill this because the FTG slot has been taken for this week. But this lake that I went to up in the Berkshires for this tournament.
Oh my God.
Smaller lake. The things I saw during the day on this lake, it was FTG weekend. About 11 o'clock, between 10 and 11, maybe towards 11 o'clock, the lake lice started just pouring onto the water. Jet skis, water skiers, tubers, just all over the place. And this is a tight lake. So we were parked on a couple of spots, and we had boats passing within 40 feet of us, full throttle, just going with fucking tubers, guys going over my line. I'm like, this is fucking bullshit. This is why I don't like doing this. If I can have an open-ended tournament where I can night fish, I'll do that instead, because these people aren't out then. The two dangerous things were there was one guy with a companion out. The one guy had one of those hydrofoils, no markings whatsoever. I could barely see him, and when I'm wearing my glasses, I can see pretty well. I could barely see him on the water. With him was a guy in one of those low to the water kayaks where I don't even know how to describe them. It's almost like the person sitting in it is set way back towards the ass end of the kayak.
Yep.
And they're, the kayak altogether is probably 6 inches off the water. I could barely see him too. I'm like, somebody's going to die. In the middle of all this chaos around noon, 1 o'clock, some insane brave soul put his swimming buoy on and was swimming across the lake and all this shit with nobody, no kayaks or anybody around him, just swimming all the way across the lake. I mean, he had an orange buoy, but like, I remember saying to the potato, I'm like, this guy's got some fucking balls. 5 minutes later, there was another bass boat where this guy was just passing by, which he ruined their fishing too. In the swimming, a wreck boat cut through with a tuber on there, and as they went by, one of the people on the boat said, "Look at that guy, he's got some balls." He yelled at us, and that's the sentiment. That was two things. Now, the real FTG moment was there was a party on the north shore of this lake.
Oh,
They had tents up, and it was actually the area Loaded Potato and I were getting on quite a few fish. And 3 guys came down to the water and approached the water cautiously. And one of them bent down and then immediately started running away, swatting at everything, screaming, "Bees, bees!" One of his buddies backed off. Another one stayed there for a little while, watching the bees apparently pour out of a hole in the ground. The first guy who got stung then yells, "Hey, grab my beer. I left it by the water," which his buddy did. Then he yells, "Get the fireworks." 10 minutes later, they've loaded, 100, 200 firecrackers into this bee nest and lit it. They went off, and then for the next, we were there for another hour or two. Nobody was near the shore. Apparently, the bees took umbrage with the fireworks to their house and took care of everybody near the shore within 50 yards or 200 yards, whatever it was. It was fucking nuts. So, yeah, someone loaded explosives into a bee nest, and that's what happened on this lake on Saturday. We finished 8th out of 9 boats. It was tight, and it was a really nasty bite. I had a fish come off with 10 minutes left that probably would have catapulted us to 5th just to save some dignity. But my main issue of the day was I don't know if I've related this. I had an injury that became a recurring injury. I'm sick of these injuries. I thought I pulled the calf muscle. I may have torn my Achilles. I don't know. If I did, it's not a full tear and I'm just letting it heal, but standing on the potatoes boat for 6 hours, I don't like using the chair in the back of the boat. After about 6 hours, I looked down and my ankle and, my whole shin were starting to swell up. And I asked Andy, I said, "Hey man, does my leg look fucked up to you?" And he goes, "Holy shit, you're all swollen up." So I spent the next hour with just dangling my feet over the back of a bass boat, throwing a drop shot all day. And that's all I caught all my fish on, drop shot, because Wreck Lake, the fish know what's coming. They're going deep. Yeah. Fuck that.
Pressure.
So I think that was the end of my day tournament career. I am all set. That was, it's not pleasurable. I'm good with it. So I made sure that was that, and I'm back on the water. And then the only other thing I had this week, I had a drop of a hat trip down to the northeast side of Philadelphia yesterday. I took Nelson with me. I've had my eye on a certain make and model of kayak for about 4 years now, if not 5. Well, maybe more than that. Maybe they came out in 2016 or 17. Yeah, so it's been 7 years that I've had my eye on this kayak, and I finally found one used. So I got a pedal kayak, a Native Ultimate, which you guys have heard that I like that model before. It's a canoe kayak hybrid. They before Native and their brother and sister companies were bought out by Big Adventure, they made a Native Ultimate with a pedal drive. And I luckily found one. The seller was in Maryland. They were polite enough to drive 2 hours up to the northeast side of Philadelphia. Nelson and I drove the 4 hours down, which through summer traffic in Connecticut was fucking miserable and actually took about 5 hours each way. Went to a beautiful little town in Pennsylvania, a gem called Doylestown. And
Doylestown?
Doylestown, Pennsylvania. It's on the northeast side of Philly. Fantastic town for walking around, great food. Met up, got the kayak, got a bite to eat, got out of there, got home at like, it was like 10:30 or 11 at night last night. And we left the house. We left Western Mass at 10 in the morning. So it's 12 hours round trip.
It's a long fucking day.
Yeah, it was. But I now have a vintage Native Ultimate Propel FX13, and I know it's for my wife and for my son to use whenever they want to come out with me, and I'll be using the NAR. But there's going to be some skinny water situations I think I'll be applying that to, because I was eyeballing that kayak hard 4 years ago, and then obviously our partnership with Three Bells kind of superseded that. That model was taken off the market before the pandemic, and now I finally got my hands on one, so I'm gonna have a little fun with it.
That's awesome, dude. And what's the length on that kayak again? Is it 10 or 12 foot?
13.
Oh, it's a 13. Nice.
Yeah, I have a native FX13 without the pedal drive.
Yeah.
And I love it. And now I have the pedal drive model. So I'll be hooking the electronics up this week. And
I got to be honest, man. I think that is like the best of every potential world. Because I've used your native FX13. And it's crazy stable. It is. But the thing is that the shape of the hull, it's also crazy fast.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
And
it's kind of the best of it. And you add the pedal drive in there. And is it the same pedal drive?
Yeah. Well, it's an older model.
But it's the same mechanics.
I'm a little loath to talk about what I think some of the changes that Big Adventures made to the Ultimate models when they took over. But I think I have a winner here. I mean, component-wise, this stuff looks like it's going to last forever.
That's awesome.
Blown away.
And that's like the best of both worlds. Like if you really want to fish skinny water, like that is pretty badass.
Yeah, it's looking good. So yeah, I have a little bit of work to do to get it set up. But one of the nice things is it was set up for fishing. It was designed for fishing, so it does have a transducer mount underneath the boat, which is That's home run.
Yeah.
For all the native ultimates I've had to make transducer arms or buy transducer arms, and that is now done. So
that's a big step.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
Sweet.
Yeah, that was really it for me for this week. Like I said, back on the horse. Sean the fisherman has returned, and it's raining out today. As soon as we're done recording, I'll be shooting over to a nearby lake to see if I can get some fish going, fired up.
Nice, dude.
And that's that. Yeah.
I'm going to be editing this sucker, then hosting trivia, and I've got a week. Well, I'll talk about my shit later.
Yeah.
So what do we got, Joe? How about you? You had some competitive angling on tap this weekend.
Yeah. So the beginning, I'm all fucked up because it's Monday instead of Sunday.
I know. It's weird.
Last week I only got out twice between the tournament, and I went out another time. It was kind of like perfect conditions when I got home from work. So grabbed the little one, Emma, and I was like, listen, grab your tablet, grab you some snacks. We're heading on the boat. And so we did. I went up, to local lake, and it was just, I couldn't do anything wrong that day. It was just, they were just chomping like crazy. Conditions were perfect. It was a good day to where I was really able to use my live scope to really spot and kind of, actually watch them, the video game fish basically, and watch them smash my lure and whatnot. And it was awesome. We caught everything you could think of: largemouth, smallmouth, pickerel, just about everything. So that was a good day. It was a little, from Nico to drop to shaky heads to crankbaits to everything. They were hitting everything. It was awesome. But yesterday I had a tournament, ABA, out at Lakeville, and it was a tough one. That was a spot that I had finished fourth the last time I was there. The pattern was much different than the last time I was there. Last time I was there, I was working the grass in about 8 to 10 feet of water, and I couldn't buy a bite in there yesterday. So I was like, all right, let's try something different. And I found some spots, some shade, because obviously it was a beaming sun, it was bluebird skies, and I discovered they were just sitting in the shade tight to shore. So I was just working all them spots, and I was actually only able to get 2 keepers to weigh in. I caught a ton of rats. I kind of figured it out a little too late. I wanted to kind of work some some pads and weeds.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, there was the ones I wanted to work. There was a couple boats already there. So I just kept beating the bank. I did end up getting one that was weighed in at 4 pounds, 5 ounces. That was a big one. That was a nice one. And I caught it on my BFS setup on a Nico rig with with my go-to stick bait, my Fresh Baits 10W30 stick bait. You guys got to get some of those. If you guys are listening, Fresh Baits, go on their site. Their 10W30 worm. I catch so many fish on that thing. Whether I Nico rig it, wacky rig it, don't matter. So I caught that thing, but it was on my BFS setup, and we talked, I think last week or the week before, how I lost that fish in the weeds on my BFS. So, oh my God, I probably fought this thing for like 5 minutes because I saw how big it was. And I just did not want to lose it. It didn't have my net. So I was like, well, obviously I can't boat flip this thing. So I finally get them, and I'm literally, I got the rod up in the air. I'm laying into the water, and I just grabbed her so hard and luckily this fish had been caught so many fucking times that she just had a big hole in her bottom lip. So I just stuck my fucking finger right in there and lifted her up. Yep. It was a nice little handle. So I got her in. Right before that, though, I know Sean told me not to do it, but I did it anyway. I started throwing a vibrating jig, and I caught some fish on it. So I was throwing. We were talking about I was throwing a jackhammer around. Yep. And I caught some fish on it, and I caught my other keeper on it, actually.
No shit.
Through that thing, basically onshore. Like if I went a centimeter more, I would have been on shore. As soon as it hit the water, it grabbed it. I mean, they were just so tight at this spot, at this place up to shore. And, but I figured out the pattern kind of late. They weren't around, docks. They weren't around anywhere where there could be any type of activity. There's a lot of houses on this lake. They were sitting in shore, like in shade under trees and stuff that weren't around any like type of like house activity and stuff.
Gotcha.
It took me a little bit to figure that out, because this is a very the recreational activities of this place, towards the end of the day yesterday was probably just as bad as our Memorial Day weekend.
Oh, really?
Oh my gosh. It was, we had this one guy, he has this racing speedboat. He was there the last time I went there too, but this asshole he'll go by you at Mach 10, about 50 feet from your boat as you're fishing.
I hate those dicks.
So it was to the point where I was like, if he passes me one more time, I'm following him to his house because I know he lives on the lake. I was like, come on, motherfucker. I was like, pass me one more time that close. And he didn't, but
he got lucky.
It was funny when we went back to weigh-in, a bunch of people were bitching about this guy. He was doing it to everybody. And it's, if I was like in the middle of the lake, like I still would be pissed, but I wouldn't be as pissed. I was fucking fishing the shore.
Yeah, there's no reason for that.
Yeah. And but anyway, so I got those two I caught a ton of shorts. 11 inch fish. Mm-hmm. And obviously I can't keep those, but I did lose two. I'm assuming they're bass. They just kind of shook me off. I tried a new shaky head hook, and I fucking hated it. I lost two fish on it.
Oh, that's no good.
I lost 2 fish on them. Cut that off after that. I won't be using that anymore. I won't throw shade to any names or anything, but I will not be using those shaky head. I mean, because you guys know I love my shaky heads, and so that, and so I ended up weighing with it was just over 6 pounds. I had that 4, and then another 2. So, whatever. I caught fish. Place I've only been twice, and I got the points I needed to qualify for the championships and stuff. So
there you go.
Whatever. I'm happy.
And you said you finished like middle of the pack.
Yeah, it ended up being like middle of the pack
with 2 fish. That's fucking wild, you know?
Yeah. Yep.
If that doesn't tell you exactly how rough it was for the entire, group.
Yep. There was 2 big bags. But this is like those guys' home lake. Yeah. They know it. Yep. They know it back to front. They got it dialed. I thought I was going to have a chance at Lunker with that one, but which would have been like $300 in my pocket. Yeah. But nope, someone got a 5. Fucking I was like, fuck. Immediately because the last time we did there, the Lunker I think was just over 3. So I was like, I'm thinking of it in that aspect. I'm oh God, I definitely got a chance, but no. And something else wild happened to me, and I'm going to go through because I did film the entire tournament on my GoPro. So I'm going to go through the footage. So I was running, I can't remember if I was running my Nico or a shaky head, but I was kind of burning it back in to recast. And as I was lifting it out of the water, probably like a 12 to 14 inch pickerel fucking jumps all the way out the water at it. Guys, almost into my boat.
Really?
Scared the shit out of me.
Oh, I bet you did.
I had never seen anything like that from... Actually, no, I did catch a pickerel at the beginning of the season, and he was jumping like a smallie. I couldn't believe it. But this thing, he came right out of the water at this fucking thing, and it scared the living shit out of me.
True snot rocket form. Damn.
Oh my God, it was crazy. And I'm going through the foot. I'm gonna go through to hope that I caught. Like I know it's on there. I just don't know if the angle you actually see it.
Yeah.
But you'll definitely see me jump like a little bitch because I totally did.
That's fucking awesome. Oh my God. Oh,
and I wish I was wearing my chest rig. I wasn't. I haven't really been running that this year.
Yep.
I wish I probably will now. But it would have been perfect. But oh God, it was like a little fucking torpedo coming out of the water. Scared the shit out of me.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But other than that, it was I got those 2 fish. I got that. It's always nice to put a 4 in the boat in a tournament. Skinny, it was obviously a female. I mean, she still almost looked like, and you could tell she's just recovered from the post spawn. She was starting to put on a little bit more weight, but she wasn't quite there yet. So yeah, that was my week of fishing in a nutshell. That's what I got.
Not bad. I had a kind of a crazy week. I ended up doing 3 sends in total. 2 in the kayak, 1 out on the bank, and the bank one was kind of unintentional. So we'll start at Tuesday. Tuesday was the first trip I had gone out. Now Monday night I had put on my Instagram story just kind of a list of different questions to ask people. Basically, I was like, I was thinking of those. You remember those choose your own adventure books that were popular, like when Sean, you and I were in school. You would get to a certain spot and it would give you a choice, and it would say, well, if you want to do this, turn to page such and such. If you want to do this, turn to page such and such. And you could like get through a story in like 5 minutes, or you could read the entire thing through multiple times depending on how you went through it. So I had decided that I would kind of play this little game with the followers over on Instagram. And I put this together, and basically it was, am I doing a kayak send or a bank send? Am I going out to the boonies, or am I going to keep it urban? Am I going to fish a river or a pond or a lake? And am I going to fish finesse or big baits? And when I was thinking big baits, my thought was, am I going to go out and fish anything that's like more subtle, like, regardless of the weight, but like more subtle applications? Or am I going to throw big baits where I'm only going to throw my swim baits? And that was kind of the difference. And I said strictly finesse. I was like, yeah, we can kind of, downsize some stuff. That'll be easy. So what ended up winning was a kayak send at a pond or a lake out in the boonies with strictly finesse. And it was close all the way around. There was probably like a 10 to 15% difference between each option. And that was like it. I mean, it was really close. So I had woken up Tuesday morning. I had plans to hit one specific body of water that I have never fished before. And the problem is this body of water is attached to a park, and there's gates at the park. to get in and out. And I had left in plenty of time. So I think I arrived at like 6:30 in the morning, and I must have just missed them opening this gate, or they must have just missed me when they came to open the gate, because I guess the gate opens at sunset or at sunrise, and it closes at sunset. So I had gotten there, the gate was closed. I'm like, all right, well, I'm not going to sit here, and I have no idea when they're going to get here to open this. Could be 10 o'clock this morning. Who knows? So I decided to make a run back toward home, and I stopped at my old stomping grounds in Belchertown, and I fished a body of water over there. Now, I've fished this place a couple of times this year, and I don't really have it very dialed necessarily at all, but there is this huge grass flat. And I was like, okay, so I think I'm gonna throw a swim jig. And we'll see how that goes. Well, I got a couple of taps there. I did see another kayak angler out there, like glued to one spot, just casting at this one dock. So I avoided them for the most part. They had at one point had gone back in. Apparently they lived at that house. So they went, beached the kayak and ran in the house, and they were gone. So I continued fishing that one bank. I decided I was just going to, as I was kind of getting off this grass flat, I wasn't connecting with any fish. I had thrown a couple other presentations that were very subtle and finessey, again, keeping with the challenge. Didn't come up with anything. One of the things that I had thrown was that Giltech finesse jig. Not a single bite. So I go and I start making my way around again, fishing to my comfortable side on my left, and I'm going around the pond. I get up to this one area where the docks kind of begin on the north end of the lake. And as I'm coming around there, I'm fishing these docks and I'm not really getting bit. And I just passed this one house, and in between there's a small wooded area between this one house and the next house. And somewhere along that line, it looks like somebody just dumped like an old Christmas tree and dumped it in the water. It was like half out of the water. So I cast up onto this and I hook into no, let me back up. One of those docks produced a fish, a nibbler, the first fish. That was on a finesse swim bait. I was just kind of like going around the outside, like flipping this bait under the dock and then bringing it back out. And I hooked into this one little nibbler. I was like, okay, fantastic. This is great. So I catch this, I release it. I move over, and this is where I come up on this little tree. And I said, well, I don't want to throw this open hook swim bait in there. Instead, I'm going to throw this finesse jig and see what happens. Hits the water, and the line immediately starts heading out toward deeper water. And I reel down, I sweep in. It was a 15 and a half. Beautiful fish, nice, healthy, chunky fish too. Take a couple of pictures, release this fish. Of course, there's a boat maybe 50, 60 yards away from me, and they see me. I'm quiet about this at this time. Immediately, as I release this fish, this boat starts coming in my direction. Immediately. And I'm like, you know what? I'm not here to play that fucking game. I'm like, let them fish this spot, because this is probably the only fish that's on this one tiny little fucking Christmas tree that's left here. So I go along my way, and I'm basically switching between a finesse swim bait and flipping this little finesse jig into slightly heavier cover. And I make my way without a single bite for a little while. And then I get over to this one house. It's odd because I know the people that live in this house. I've known them for years, since I was in like middle school. And I can remember hanging out with their son and doing very nefarious things on this fucking lake at that house. Dude, I hooked into a 15 3/4 under their dock with that Giltech finesse jig. Just smoked it. Headed my way back in toward the south side bank to start making my way over to the launch, because it was getting close to like about noon. I had a couple things I wanted to do. So I start making my way over, had a great time with it. It was a lot of fun, and ended up getting a couple more bites on the way in, but I was like, I'm not going to dedicate this time over here. Marked them as, spots where I had been bit and that may, have some good stuff going. And then I went back and headed home for the day. So that was Tuesday. That was awesome. It was really good. It's nice to catch like a couple of decent fish. The biggest fish out of this body of water I have ever caught was like 17 and change maybe. And then, but the thing is about this pond is that there is a significant number of pin winning fish that have come out of it. So the hope is that there's still some decent fish left in here. And I'd love to hook into some of them at some point or another. So I got home. The next day I had gone out. No, it wasn't even Wednesday. Wednesday I had a bunch of stuff to do, planning for the wedding and getting, music together and different details for everything. And we had a blast. I had a blast putting their music together because it was unique. It wasn't the same stuff that I'm normally playing. So Thursday I had a couple of errands to do. Now, Sean, I don't know, Joe, if you've ever caught on to this. You might have, actually, because it was in this wedding season. You've heard, both of you, I think, have heard my woes about dealing with dry cleaners.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Yep. So it fucking continues. Like, I just can't win. I went to the place that Sean had suggested.
No.
I went there with it. No. This is the wedding before last. This is weeks and weeks ago. I had gone to this place, and I'll tell you, the price was strikingly low, like half of what I'm used to paying to get my suit dry cleaned. But everything happens in-house. So I'm assuming that it's just a matter of, like, we're not paying another service. So they're able to kind of, like, create savings for the customer right there, which is awesome. But they do everything in-house. And I was expecting this to be a faster turnaround, and it really wasn't at all. Like, in fact, I needed it for a Friday, and I was like, yeah, I got to pick this up on Thursday. She's like, oh, it'll be ready on Friday. And I'm like, could we make it Thursday? And she did. Then I realized she sold that place. There's a new owner.
Really?
Yeah, as a new owner. I'm going to give him another shot, but, like, just the fact that it was in-house and I had brought this in over a week in advance and it took so long to get done. Like, if I needed a fast turnaround, that's rough. So what I did was, after that wedding, I go, I'm going to try something different. I'm going to go back to my original place, right? But I'm going to take my suit as soon as I'm done with this wedding. As soon as they're open, I'm going to drop it off. And so I'm going to tell you guys the date. July 17th, I dropped that suit off to be dry cleaned. I didn't say anything to them about when I needed it. I actually had even forgotten about picking it up, like, within, like, 6 or 7 days. I never got a phone call, nothing like that. I was going to go out this week on Tuesday, actually, before I had on my way back from fishing. They're closed on Tuesdays, suddenly, okay? There is a sign up explaining that they're closed on Tuesdays until, I think, September. So I go from there to this. This is so stupid. I go this week, and so then this brings us to Thursday. So this was Thursday, August the 3rd, right? My suit had been there on July 17th. I go there on Thursday at 10 in the morning. I go in to pick up my suit, and I'm told it's not ready yet. I'm like, ridiculous. Fuck you, it's not ready yet. I can see it hanging up. They just haven't bagged it. So they tell me, they're like, can you come back, like, around 3? And I was like, yeah, I got some running around I could do. I can come back at 3. I go out, and I'm like, well, fuck. I might as well do a little bit of fishing. So I head over to a spot where I fish from the bank pretty routinely. And I just want to, I don't even have, like, my tackle with me. Like, my bag for bank fishing is, like, usually my day box is in there. I have very, very little with me. So I have a handful of, like, rando soft plastics that happen to be in that bag, plus my terminal tackle box. But I have tied on that finesse jig. Could not buy a bite on Thursday. Just couldn't do it. Got a couple of taps on that jig. Just nothing that they were gonna really connect with at all. I did hook a pickerel, and as I went to go flip him up onto the bank, he somehow managed to shake off and landed back in the water. And then I lost the freaking jig into a tree because I was fishing in extremely dense vegetation, overhead hanging trees from the bank, and I thought my lure had gone through the foliage and had fallen into the water, and it didn't. It got caught up in there. So I'm like, all right, let's try and break this off. The lure is still in that tree. I'll be going with a saw just to cut that branch off and bring it back in because I'm getting that motherfucker back. But I did this smart thing, and I went to the Giltech website, and I bought
16 of those fucking jigs.
16 of them in a variety of colors. Actually, maybe 20. It might have been 20 in 5 different colors. They're just freaking beautiful, you know. And I love the pairing with that Riot craw. It's perfect. And Joe, I still got to get you your fucking creek box.
Dude.
I
Zach's
know.
asking me what I think of it, and I can't fucking tell him.
I know. When are you working tomorrow?
Yeah.
I'll get it to you tomorrow.
Yeah, no sweat. I'm there the rest of the week. So
yeah, I'll get it to you tomorrow. So I have been. So that was that day. I was now while I bring up the dry cleaning because while I was there, I got a phone call saying, yeah, actually maybe 2:00 is better. Maybe 2:00 will be better. I said, okay, cool. So I'm like, all right, cool. I'll just fish for another 30 minutes and go. Right. You know, whatever time it was that I had gone out there with 30, 45 minutes, whatever. I'm like, so I'm there. Then I get another phone call. I'll be like, well, he's getting a haircut. So like maybe 3:00 is a little bit better. Maybe even 3:30. At this point, I'm getting pissed because I'm like, should we just make it tomorrow and I'll just cross my fingers that it's done? You know, that I've got the suit. I ended up getting the suit in time. I did, however, discover that there is another dry cleaner, which is actually ridiculously close to my house. But there's like zero signage or anything like that. So I might give that a shot. I'm not 100% sure. But it's like, I can't win, you know? Even if I bring it where it's open-ended, where I just have to pick it up when it's done, I get nothing. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. They had it from the 17th to the 4th. Or I'm sorry, the 3rd. Like you guys,
and that was it the one I recommended, or was it your original?
That was the original place.
Okay.
It's almost like they're going for an award for like, how can we make this guy fucking stroke out? You know what I mean? Oh, Jesus Christ. So, did trivia on Friday, had a great time, did the wedding on Saturday. Saturday was awesome. We had really good weather. We had, and it was nice because this is the first wedding I've done that's been over 200 guests in a long time. It's 250 people. And it was initially it was over 300. So it was really good. And it was also really good, God, to be in a wedding venue that is an event space, not to be in a backyard with a tent and having to deal with the environment or having to do like, oh yeah, we're going to have this wedding in this vintage mansion with like, the acoustics are fucking insane. The electrical is sketchy as can be. And like all this, like this is a place where like, these are professionals, they're vendors and the staff. And I'm talking about the Log Cabin FYI in Holyoke. They are amazing to work with. I have nothing but great things to say about them over there, you know? So I pack up my stuff and the wedding ended. This is what's nice is that this wedding was for somebody's daughter who is this person is in the wedding industry. So they get how this stuff works. And they had some gear from their own company that was in play. And they were like, we want to make sure we have enough time to strike it and, you know, get some help from some folks if need be. And then load up the trailer because we don't want to take all night and kill it and be there busting our ass all night. That's for you to do, Bobby. You sweat your tits off and haul your shit out into the parking lot. We're not going to do that. So I go ahead and I get my stuff together and pack everything up and I head out. I got home at 11:10. It was so nice. On a wedding night,
nice job.
That's nothing. That is early. I'm usually home at 1 a.m. on most nights when I have a wedding. Like, and at my age, guys, I'm too fucking old for that shit. There's a reason why I host trivia at 7 p.m. is so I can be nights with my nice, warm milk and my Grampy Sleepy Tobacco, lulling me off to sleep. Bobby,
hold on a second.
What's up?
Do you see what just popped up in the comments?
I did.
We have an international jighead making his debut.
Holy shit, all the way from Sweden. Look at that, jumped on my first live. Look at that, Ted. Nice to have you here. All the way from Sweden. What time of day?
Ted, I've been educated on Swedish culture by the front man of your brethren, Opeth. Michael Akerfeld once told us at a show that we are Opeth. We are from Sweden, where we drink, listen to ABBA, and fuck. Is that true, Ted? Is Michael Akerfeld false advertising the wonderful land of Sweden with your habits? I just want to know that. He did say that during a show. It was fantastic.
He's probably 2 out of 3, I'm sure, are right on the money.
Oh, the ABBA and the fucking, absolutely.
Yeah.
The drinking, they don't do as much. They got weed.
They got weed. So most nights I'm home at like 1 a.m., so I was looking forward. I was like 11 o'clock. This is great. Now I had texted my buddy Eric to go and fish the body of water that the initial body of water I wanted to fish on Tuesday, because he had sent me a reply when he saw my video posted on Instagram about it. He was like, dude, he's like, anytime you want to fish there, let me know. So I said, oh, let's go ahead and do it. Let's get there and do some, we'll hit it hard. So Eric says to me, he's like, what time you want to do it? I said, I go, well, I'm not sure when the gate opens. So he actually called the local PD to get some answers. And, that's a good thing to do. Reach out to your municipalities and ask about these things, because sometimes they'll have information for you that could be beneficial, especially when it comes to gates being open at certain times for access to the water. That supersedes everything. Anyway, I go ahead and I tell him, let's go ahead and do it. He says they open at sunrise. He's like, sunrise is like 6:30. I was like, okay. I was there at 6:30 last time, but we'll see what happens. Maybe because it's the weekend, it'll be busy. They're like, yeah, let's go ahead and do it. So I pull up, gate is open. I drag myself out of bed. So I got like full disclosure here, guys. This, is it September or October, will be 30 years I've been in the DJ business. 30 years of a job where some folks, like, their biggest, I guess, like, flex is that they don't sit down when they're working. Like, that's a big thing in the DJ community. Like, oh, I never sit down while I'm working. Well, I'll tell you what, I am a fat fuck, and when I spend 8+ hours on my feet straight, I'm feeling it. So, like, I usually like to have something behind my DJ booth so that in those spots where I don't necessarily have to, be up on my feet actively doing anything, I can, take the stress off of my ankles a little bit, and I'll sit down. That was not the situation here, and that was my fault. I didn't show up prepared for this, because the last couple of times I had been working, I was in pretty good shape, actually, like really surprisingly good shape. So I do this wedding, and there was a lot of concrete. There was a lot of really hard surfaces, and my dogs were killing me. They were killing me at the end of the show. So I pack up my stuff, I get home, and I'm like, I wake up that morning, and I immediately put on my Crocs, because I'm like, they'll help alleviate a little bit of this. Start getting my stuff together, and I was in and out, like, out of the house, like, within about 20 minutes. Outside, rigged up my boat, got everything all set, hooked up the trailer, and then just hit the road. I got the boat to the water, got a text from Eric, said he was running a little bit late. I told him I was going to launch, probably fish nearby. Just shoot me a message when he gets nearby. So I launched the boat. I go out and I fish. Now, I'd never been over here before. And over by the ramp, there is a ton of vegetation, a ton of grass, a ton of lily pads, and like areas where there's like scattered pads, like clumps. You'll get like, a few, square feet of pads on one area. And there's a little channel in between where it's all subsurface grass. And then, over by the bank, it's much more dense. And I, of course, I was like, I'm going to throw this new frog that I got from my build your own box from Dark Horse Tackle. Now I'm going to do a reel on all of those baits and kind of walk through all of them. But I picked up some really, really great stuff. A lot of jigs. A frog, and a 1.5 square bill that I am stoked to throw. So I've got some really, really good stuff to play with. I had fished for about 90 minutes over there with a swim jig and a frog. Got a tap on the frog, wasn't able to hook up, missed the entire frog completely. Fished a bunch over there. Eric hit the water. We head out. We start fishing one side, and this is a relatively small area. So my plan was just to fish along one bank, get down by the dam, fish that, and see how we did, and maybe dedicate some time to it if it could pay off. Spoiler alert, it didn't. And just kind of make our way back. I hooked into a small nibbler on a finesse jig, casting up super shallow. Son of a bitch took that bait right away, started swimming off. I leaned into him. I was like, okay, cool. Skunk's out of the boat. This is like mere seconds after Eric had just hooked up on a similar size fish, a little bit bigger. And so Skunk was out for both of us. We're feeling pretty good about it. We make our way back down, and I'm going back and forth between a finesse swim bait and a finesse jig. Basically, again, like determining what I'm going to throw based on the cover that I'm throwing into. And I managed to hook one more. It was a 15 and a half. Came off of the very, very end of a laydown. I threw a finesse swim bait, just kind of running it alongside, right along that laydown right there. Must have got right in front of that fish, and he just smashed it. Set the hook there, got him in the boat, got a couple of really, really good pictures. Freed that puppy and fished the rest of the day without a bite. And the conditions were a bitch. Like, we had bluebird skies. As the day went on, we got slightly more clouds, but definitely more clear than clouds. And we had also gotten into, well, we had like minimal wind. Like, it was a great, great day to be out and fish. You know, if you were looking for still conditions, this is really nice, especially if you're in a paddle yak like Eric was. Made things very, very easy. So I called that a day. Now this is where things get interesting, guys. I go and get off the water. Eric and I have a conversation about carp fishing and baits and rigging and all kinds of stuff. And I call my wife and I tell her, I was like, hey, look, I'm just going to come home with lunch because it's about lunchtime. I'll go ahead, I'll come home with lunch, and then, we'll just do something. We'll make something work for dinner tonight. She says, okay, sounds good. So I get home, right, with all this stuff. I'm exhausted because I had gotten home at, 11. I think I only actually fell asleep around 1. And I was up at, 5:30? So I go and I eat. It's about now, maybe it's going on 3 o'clock. And I say to my wife, I'm like, I'm just going to go take a nap for a little bit. I'm exhausted. So I go upstairs and I lay down. I fall asleep. My phone rings. I answer it and it's my wife. I look outside and it looks like it's, I'm thinking it's like just a cloudy day, I grab my phone and my wife says, I figured I should get you up at some point. I look at my phone at the clock and I'm like, did you make coffee? I thought it was 8:10 a.m. and it was 8:10 at night. And I was like, did you make coffee? She's like, what? I legitimately thought it was the next day. I thought I was getting up to record this show. Oops. I was like, shit, I got to go get my laptop. I got to do this. I got to do that. So why is my fucking leg still hurting? It's still it's not as bad as it was yesterday, but it still ain't great. But yeah, so that was my week as far as fishing goes. I think I'm going to do more of those little choose your own adventure deals. I'm going to have to get creative with other categories to kind of mix it up, but I had a lot of fun with it. It was a good time, and I love the fact that I was able to have content immediately following it with the outcome of what that was, and even include the polls to show the results in that video. So I thought it was a lot of fun. If you guys liked it, let me know.
Your final boss choice for the next one should be close, no close.
Oh, yeah. That might be a strike against that paperwork for those kayaks we've got, huh?
Yeah.
We don't need any exposed brown eye on that native seat there, Bobby.
Speedo, no Speedo.
Yeah.
There you go.
There we go. Speedo. That could be the loophole. I like that. Gross.
Gross.
Damn, Bobby. What do we got here? Let's see. Oh, I remember having this conversation. Metal Jones says, maybe he can help me understand my Swiss French Apple keyboard. That sounds like a dessert.
Ted, we need an interpreter for keyboards. Metal Jones has an issue.
What's your keyboard game like, Ted?
Put your heads together on this one. We got problems.
Oh, what a week. What a wild week. Let's talk, though. We got some details to kind of go over here. As far as like we're talking about hot topics this week, and let's just pull the beef curtain wide open. You guys might notice that there's nothing happening for the Jigs and Bigs tournament series right now. There's no chronic trips happening in the month of August. There's no Jigs and Bigs multi-species tournament. And the short version of that is really that we're kind of changing the way things work for the multi-species tournament series. And a big part of that is that the saltwater component with chronic trips is disappearing. That is going away. And we're working primarily on doing these multi-species tournaments focusing exclusively on freshwater. And we're going to be doing every single month will be a Jigs and Bigs for the window that we do the tournaments from. We're looking at April to October is basically the window that we're looking at. Sean, you have some info?
I do. Just to flesh that out a little more, we with my departure from Chronic Trips and pretty much everything over the past month outside of Jigs and Bigs, Chronic Trips, we felt ran its course. It was a blast. It definitely got us.
It was awesome. Yeah.
Started in the tournament game years ago, and it got to a point where we were seeing a lot of people kind of shy away from Chronic Trips because of the saltwater component. A lot of the Midwestern folks were just staying away from it. And this is a national tournament series, and it just seemed like a lot of folks weren't touching it because of that. So we're going to make a couple of changes based on what we've seen over the years with both Jigs and Bigs and Chronic Trips. Nobody, myself included, Joe, Bobby, all of us, plus the feedback we've received over years of tournament fishing, nobody likes to get into a tournament where you automatically know who the top 5 finishers are going to be.
Yeah.
All right. It's not fair. And beyond anything, I stake my reputation as a director on fair play. I want to see a level playing field for everyone. Okay. Or as level as you can get. And there's some things like, the rules we have about shore fishing versus boat fishing versus kayak fishing. We figure that's more of a preference. We understand there's going to be advantages, disadvantages to each, but we want people to have the opportunity to play to their strengths. That's why we're not eliminating anyone who fishes from a kayak when it's a big boat tournament, or eliminating shore anglers when we say it's got to be out of a boat. That's one thing. But what we've seen, and I took a step in the right direction last year, going from the 4-point scoring system to the 2-point scoring system. But what we're seeing is having a lunker undermines what we're getting at with getting people out on the water and catching different species. This is a multi-species tournament, not a lunker tournament. And while it's not as bad as it was, we're still seeing people focusing, I think, a little bit more on lunkers than getting out and catching as many species as possible.
Yep.
It's a multi-species tournament, not a lunker tournament. So the first change we're making next year, possibly this October, if our fine friends at Fishing Chaos can catch up on this. It is a little bit late, and I don't know if they would have to rewrite all their code on this shit. But the first change we're going to make is there will be no more lunker points. It will be straight up a 1-point tournament for all species of fish. Everything listed, you catch one, it's a point. Second change we're making, one of the biggest time consumers we have as judges is the NE5 category. And a lot of times it doesn't even play a factor. And again, it's a lunker hunt for that. So we are going to eliminate the NE5 category. That's change number 2. But we will be expanding the number of species and sorting it out. So instead of having a trout category, this is just an example off the top of my head. I'll take a look at it, between now and then. But more than likely, it's going to be brook trout, rainbow trout, tiger trout, lake trout. What'd I miss? Brook, rainbow,
brown,
tiger, brown trout. Thank you. So those 5 are the example. I'm sure I'll put 1 or 2, maybe
golden trout, cutthroat trout, all of them.
Yeah. Well, you start getting into 100 species, it's got to be stuff like, as a judge, I can identify and without looking up, without going on Wikipedia. So the NE5 will be gone. And then what we're planning on doing is, because we want people to have a chance to win, anybody who has won a Chronic Trips or Jigs and Bigs tournament, I will be going back through the records. If you come on board and you decide to participate in a tournament next year, you will be in a separate division. So there will be a past winners division and there will be a current division. If you win and you are in the current division, you will not be eligible for the winners division until the following year. So if you win in 2024, you don't just automatically go to the winners division.
It'll be
between April and May.
Yeah.
It'll be 2025 that you're in the winners division. It'll give you a chance to get your feet under you and have a year of having fun. And then you go off to the big leagues, shall we say. So I'll be compiling a list. We want people to have a chance to win. We understand that it takes a while to get good at this. So we're going to have basically 2 divisions to do that. Bobby, what were the other changes we talked about? So the 2 divisions, eliminating the NE5, going to the 1 point system. With the 1 point system, for people who are catching bigger fish, the lengths will matter in one way. That's our tiebreaker.
Yeah.
We've simplified this tournament. You get 1 point for a species, and then your total length will be the tiebreaker. So we're expecting people, maybe the top 5 people in this tournament in each division, have 10, 11 points each, whatever. They're all tied. Nobody's going to have the same lengths. And I'll put another tiebreaker in after that, and we'll figure out.
Yeah, as a safety.
Yep, exactly. But they're always going to be at least two tiebreakers, and we'll roll from there.
And I think what's going to be cool about this too is that winner's circle, like that whatever term that we're going to affectionately call that kind of gives us something to like kind of talk about content wise here, because those are the anglers who have placed in, they've risen to a certain level in, like, I would say, like the farm league. That's what the initial is. Like, you enter, you play, it's fun, we're learning. There's a lot of that, but it's going to be a whole lot more serious in that winner's circle. And I think that we're able to report some pretty amazing shit in there, because some of these guys that are in that category go fucking hard.
Yeah.
So
Ted is asking a question. Ted getting very involved on day one from Sweden. I love this. Is the tourney open for international participation? I don't know, Bobby. What do you think? I mean, it's going to be North American species.
That's Ted, the only thing I worry about is I'm not sure what species that they would have. I would say this, that we could open it, but we can't really cater to we couldn't put an even number of species up against the North American stuff.
I don't know about Sweden, but don't they have like big ass friggin' yellow perch and like carp and shit over there?
Yeah,
northern pike, carp, but that's 3.
Sure.
Somebody goes trout fishing and Ted's buried.
Yeah.
Like
right.
Ted, I will think about it, but I'm gonna have to lean kind of right now towards no, because I don't think you guys are gonna have the same amount of species of invasive North American species.
Yeah. We might be able to get you a definitive list once that list is together, and then we'll put some feedback in and let you know like what you think you could do as far as hanging with that.
It's gonna be tough.
It will be tough.
It's gonna be real tough. So we'll more to come on that, Ted. We'll think about it. But I mean, we don't want to bone you over and say, hey, give us how many euros is $30? we don't want your euros just for you to get blown out of the water. That, again, fair competition for me is making sure that the playing field's level. Everybody who's going out has a shot at this. We understand there's going to be regional differences. I mean, we put bowfin and snakehead in. Guess what? The folks in Maryland, they're going to have a field day with the snakehead. We're not going to catch any up here. We don't have them. And then as far as bowfin, people in the Midwest are going to do really well with bowfin. Northeast is going to be tough. So like, I'm trying to balance it that way too. And I will say this, I'm going to say this now, and I know I'm going to say it 100 fucking times before these tournaments start. Any species that live in fresh and salt water, and I'm not talking fresh and brackish, I'm talking fresh and salt water. So particularly striped bass and drum species will not be eligible. I'm not dicking around with drum, and I'm not dicking around with striped bass. I know you guys in the Midwest have striped bass, and I know you guys have drum. We have drum up here at some of the bigger lakes.
Yeah.
The problem is they can go both ways, and the like saltwater drum species look so similar to freshwater that I'm not gonna know, and I'm not playing around with drum. Drum and striper are out. So sorry guys. And striped bass again. We can catch massive striped bass off the coast of Massachusetts. Big ones.
Yeah, huge.
And they're going to blow whatever striped bass are caught out of a reservoir in Tennessee out of the water. And if there's shenanigans going on with the app, I'm not going to know where these striped bass were caught in Massachusetts. Not that you guys are doing it, but it's for us out here on the coast. There's questionable stuff. So I'm not striped bass and drum out. But there you go.
It's fancy.
Yeah, so we'll be definitely implementing it for 2024, possibly implementing it for for October. If I can reach out to the fine folks at Fishing Chaos. One other thing I didn't mention about my week, Bobby, speaking of all this, had there been a tournament going on, Saturday I would have put up 6 points with a possible 7th for a lunker. I didn't tell you this. So I caught largemouth. I caught nearly a dozen massive bluegill in 20 feet of water on a drop shot, which, okay, that I guess that happens. I don't know why they'd be schooling up that deep, but whatever. I caught a yellow perch. I caught a rock bass. I caught a rainbow trout.
Really?
And then, most importantly, I caught a chain pickerel that is my first pin of the year. So I got a 25-inch pickerel on a drop shot.
On a fucking drop shot. Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
And I pulled it out of weeds. And, Joe, you were talking a little bit about pulling stuff out of weeds earlier.
Yeah.
So let me tell you how big my testicles are with a drop shot now. The water was 7 to 10 feet deep, and the weeds were coming up to a foot below the surface, and I was throwing a drop shot into that with 8-pound fucking fluorocarbon, and I pulled the 17-inch largemouth and the 25-inch pickerel out of that shit.
That's pretty awesome. What were you using for line?
8-pound.
You said 8-pound?
8-pound fluoro. 8-pound Invisex. So again, you guys heard me say I trust the Invisex. I trust it to fucking, and Loaded Potato's taking a little credit here. I didn't want to measure the thing. And I'm like, I don't know. I think that's going to be a pin. And he goes, yeah, he netted it for me. And we got it in the boat, and it was 25 even. So thank you, Loaded Potato. I appreciate the effort. I was a little, getting a little fucking weary on my feet there and didn't want to deal with the fucking pickerel. But no, it was a state pin. It was the only one I've got this year so far. So
it's awesome.
Yeah. If you're drop shotting, fucking everyone out there, don't be afraid to throw it into fucking weeds. And
don't.
This was tall shit up. This was fucking a mess, and I was pulling fish out of there. So
what were you using for a rod?
7 foot. It was a 7 foot medium. Oh god damn it! What are my other rods I use? I'm fucking blanking. It's too early in the morning. My rods. I have the whole set of them. Yeah, my Arc Invoker Pros. Thank you.
Yeah.
And then my $20 Chinese piece of shit spinning reel that I love to death. An inshore, just so you know. Yeah. 8-pound Invisex.
Chrissy Fishing throws a comment out there. She asks, will there still be a Jigs and Bigs tournament for next month, though? Absolutely. September's on. Yep.
The current rules with the lunkers, and October is the question mark. We will have one in October.
Yeah. Will it be the new rules or not? That really depends on Fishing Chaos.
Yeah, we'll see what we can do. Also of note, just because, thank you, Chrissy, for the reminder. 8 days, the September Jigs and Bigs tournament is open for registration, folks. Yep. Jump in.
It's going to be good. It's going to be fucking.
It'll be fun.
So
this will be good, and then we'll do one in October as well because Chris Pendergast with the excellent suggestion. We all fly to Sweden for a month. Then we will all drink, listen to ABBA, and fuck. I love it. We'll listen to some Opeth too.
I'm into it.
Yep.
I've had Invisex snap for the first time ever on me last week, but I had a monster on the line. Pretty sure it would have been a state record if this largie launched himself like 5 feet out of the water. I felt like that little boy in Free Willy. Just stand up on your Old Town Chrissy like, yeah! Yeah, I guarantee you she did.
Yep.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
State record. So that would have been a fucking 16-pound largemouth, Chrissy.
Dude, she's making a comparison to a killer whale.
Yes. Also, hey, a couple of comments ago, Tim Bender asked. I did throw it in there. I made a sound effect. Tim Bender asked for a sound effect. Can you make a sound effect for the beef curtain?
Yes.
You know what my thought is?
What? Should we do that, or should we do more of like a
like that?
Maybe a couple of them.
Tim, what do you think?
Or like maybe. Oh, you know what? I know what we'll do. I'll grab my portable recorder and I'll go out today and I'll buy a giant fucking rump roast and I'll put it in the crock pot and I'll get it all seasoned up, and then right before I put it on high, I'll just.
I thought you were gonna say when it got all soft and tender, you were gonna stick a finger in it.
Hey guys, I just got this totally taken off from the beef carton thing. Got this picture sent to me. This was the fish from yesterday.
Very nice, Joe.
Shit, dude, that's a good fucking fish, man.
Yeah. Too bad I couldn't catch 3 more, but
when it didn't get lunker, did you go to the water's edge and punt it back to?
I just threw it in the woods.
That's what you do.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
That's what you do, yeah.
Oh my God, you should have seen Sean's face.
Well, I just had a thought. That's why I'm you're all concerned about your 4-pounder. I'm still stuck on the beef curtain noise. Bobby, we have some audio queued up, ready to go for anybody touching a beef curtain. We know. I'm gonna pull. So let's try that.
All right.
Bobby would like to pull back the beef curtain.
Tim, how do you feel about that? He says number 1.
I think you're like, oh, well, that's either that or
Velcro
hey, you know what,
for
Bobby,
the beef curtain.
Why don't I just record myself the next time I make a pot of macaroni and cheese?
Oh my God. So I'm glad you brought that up. Last night, okay, so my wife and I are big on food. I don't know if you know, I don't want a big shocker to a lot of you people. But my wife and I will watch rando-ass culinary-based content on YouTube. And especially after some of Grampy's sleepy medicine. But we watched this video, and I forget the name of the channel, but it was a guy making something known as hot dog sauce. You guys ever heard of hot dog sauce?
No.
So there's a difference between making chili and making hot dog chili. Like, they're two different things. He says, yes, the queef. Okay. That's what we're going for. We're going to do it. Okay. So, with that said, we watched this video, and this guy makes this hot dog sauce out of it's 10 pounds of beef and 4 giant cans of tomato juice, giant cans, and you just cook this down. You basically mash. It's the finest ground meat you've ever seen in your life, and it's pretty thick. And as he's stirring this, I look over at my wife and I go,
"Hey, you know what that sounds like, right?"
And this guy who was making this, come to find out, was making this giant recipe of hot dog sauce for his church social. Probably totally unaware of the audio content that I would love to rip from his video and utilize. But yeah, sounded exact like stirring mac and cheese. Exactly.
Excellent. Yeah, I'll record that. It will be good.
There we go. Let's pull back the beef curtain. I do. I like the queef. We have a team that plays plays trivia called Queef Fart.
Isn't that redundant?
No, it's not redundant. I think queef is one and fart is the other. It's a pair.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. I guess it's like a 1-2 punch. It's like a left hook, right uppercut.
Yeah, I think so. Jab, uppercut. I'll bet you.
Yeah.
Oh boy. All right. This has been an education for everybody.
Let's circle around here. Wrap up segment 1 with our giveaways for the June. Or was it the June or the July? What the hell?
July. It was July.
July. God damn it, for the July Jigs and Bigs tournament. I don't even know what fucking month it is. I skipped my whole summer. All right, July Jigs and Bigs. Bobby, you drew the names prior to
yes.
To coming on the show here. Coming on the show. Gross. To starting recording this show. So you just drew 7 names, right?
I did. I drew the 7 names. Yep.
All right, so I'll tell you. First off, do we have any fun music? You want to put some drums up for this? Maybe we haven't heard the drums.
I could throw some drums on for this. Let's go ahead.
Let's have a good Dothraki wedding for everybody.
What did we call this? It was the last strike for glory. That's what it was. Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. We'll just go ahead. We'll talk over it, and I'll use those other sound effects. Sweet. Oh, let's go ahead. Oh, that'll do. All right.
There we go. All right, first up for the July Jigs and Bigs multi-species scavenger hunt tournament. It's a lot of it's very wordy. I will work on the graphics for that, me and you. I want scavenger hunt in there prominently. You know, you love that term, so we'll work on that for next year.
I love it.
First up, A-Bay custom lure giveaway. Who's that going to?
That's going to Vidal. Oh! Nice job, Vidal.
Vidal loves it. Good stuff. But we still have all your other shit. Hey, by the way, guys, we have a logistical thing Bobby and I are solving this week. If you won a prize from Jigs and Bigs over the past since April, we will be getting them out this week. More than likely, Bobby and I will be seeing each other on Tuesday. We have a little date.
We
date
do
night,
a mandate.
Little mandate. Mandate. Gross.
Gross.
We're gonna head up to a pond up the Shears and do a little dusk into night fishing on Tuesday night. So I'll be Bobby will be stopping by his storage bin to grab the prizes. They will be getting out this week.
Mm-hmm.
Next up, nice lead in, a pair of sunglasses, Torres brand, provided to you by us fine folks at Jigs and Bigs.
Mm-hmm. Let's go to Chrissy Radwillowitz.
Chrissy, there you go. All right. Up next, we have a 3 lure choice giveaway. We're whittling down now. I have to get actually in touch with our good friend Nate Shagnon to get a hold of his 3 lures. I'll probably send him a picture and have him set aside which ones he wants. But 3 lures from Klondike Custom Baits. I have a box of them. We're getting down to nut cutting time with these lures, folks. So you're lucky to get them sooner rather than later. Bobby, who we got for Klondike?
We got the one and only Ellie Noel. She loves a good wood plug.
Wasn't silicon
Plug.
silicon plug or wood plug?
Wood.
We got a couple things going on here.
It's magic.
What is this? The 18th century?
Watch out for splinters, Ellie. Oh!
It's wrapped with a pelt
I'm
from a
going
goat.
to hell. I am going to hell.
All right. Up next, we have a Naqua power pack, a power bank.
Oh.
With a gooseneck light. The normal Naqua pack that they are so gracious to provide for us every tournament. Who's getting the Naqua, Bobby?
The Naqua goes to the one and only Scott Wood.
Good for Scott. Excellent.
Good for you, Scott.
Here's a big one. This is Scott Wood. Plug.
Oh.
Gross.
Oh, we're vile human beings.
We are.
All right, next up. This one again. I've been trumpeting a little bit this year. It's a new addition to the giveaways for our tournaments. The Nor'easter $50 gift card plus a hat.
Nice.
Plus a hat.
Plus a
Who's
hat.
getting that, Bobby?
That's going to the one and only Jerry Savely. We got more drums.
Oh, that's the second time he's won that. Ooh, that's nice. Good for him.
Yeah, that's not a bad thing.
He won the April one. All right. A perennium favorite from Sarah P's Sacks and Sleeves. Who's getting Sarah P's sleeves?
The Sarah P's sleeves go to Sam Cruz III. I like
Sam
the double.
Cruz the third. Like you gotta say it that way. We have a new addition this week. We're actually right as we started recording, our friends at Dark Horse said we want in on this shit.
Oh, I thought did we already do 6? I thought there was one that we're missing.
You know what? I put that in the wrong spot. We'll get to Dark Horse in a second.
Gotcha.
Sorry, that was y'all got blue balls on Dark Horse now. Fresh Baits prize pack. Boys at Fresh Baits. Who's getting that fun stuff?
Fresh Baits. That's going to Tom M.
Tom Monahan, I believe it is, correct?
In fact, I can probably hand deliver that one this week or next to trivia.
I will fire that your way on Tuesday, sir. We'll take care of that. And then finally, and this is we're breaking a little rule here, but we're okay. The winner of this could possibly be one of our other winners. Dark Horse Tackle, last minute, said they would fire up a which box was it, Bobby? Was it a build your own certificate?
Let me double check that message.
Yes, a BYOB
Oh, it's
giveaway.
a BYOB, dude. That's a deal. Oh my god.
So that means you can go on Dark Horse website, build your own box. Bobby just built his own box.
I built 2.
Built 2. There you
I'm
go.
a piece of
Built
shit.
A couple boxes. There you go. And you can do that courtesy of Dark Horse Lures. Who we got for that?
The winner of that is Dwayne W.
Dwayne. What's Dwayne? God damn it. I didn't write the last names down because I'm a piece of shit.
Dwayne, dude. You're building your own box. You're building your own box, Dwayne.
It was God, what's Dwayne's last name?
Starts
Dwayne
with
Wade,
a W.
Miami Heat. I know. God, thank God we put the drums up.
We did. It adds a little bit of filler.
Dwayne Wilson.
Dwayne Wilson. Nice job.
There we go. So we have we're set up. That's that. We will get these prizes out to everyone. Again, if you've won a prize, a tourist pair of glasses through us, we will be getting it out this week. So there you go. We have 7 winners. Let's get ready for September, then October, and then next year we have a new format, and we're excited to be dropping that on everybody and see where it goes.
A new floor mat. I love it. I'm looking forward to it.
Oh, hold on. Jay Basson. We can pass the nor'easter to someone else. Let's you want to repoll?
We can pull
Thanks,
it
Jay.
now.
That's awesome, dude. You didn't have to do that. I mean, I love that nor'easter stuff. I can't have enough of it. I would have kept it, but
we can
that's cool.
We can repoll.
Super team player. Thanks, Jay.
Let's go ahead and do it. We'll do one more winner for that, and it'll be a name that we haven't called. No, I like that. Let's see. Who do we have? Boom. Okay, so we got the winner for the nor'easter is Zach E.
Zach, God damn it, I just closed Fishing Chaos. What's
Zach.
Zach's last name? Do you remember?
Zach from Dark Horse is who we're talking about. Fullard.
Is it?
Yeah.
No. No, this is somebody else. I thought it was Zach Ekberg.
Yeah, it is. Oh, it is a different Zach.
Yeah, hold on. Let me double check to make sure I'm not fucking around with Zach Ekberg's name because I know I'm saying it wrong and he's going to punch me right in the
Nope,
cots.
I think you're right.
Is it? Come on, Fishing Chaos, you piece of shit. Zach Ekberg, look at that. My memory fucking held. All that weed, and I still remembered Ekberg. All right, Zach Ekberg. Congrats.
All that weed.
Did Zach get the huh?
There we go. That sounded
go.
even sloppier.
Yeah, well, it is.
Gross.
All right, congrats everybody, and we'll be getting those prizes out.
I love it. That is freaking. He is an Amish. I put in a massive order recently and pretty well covered.
Oh,
Fair enough.
Sorry, Zach.
Now I got fucking Amish paradise in my head. God damn it.
That's right. You got me going on Tiny Tim earlier, you fucker.
Yeah, that's just fucking ugly right there.
That sucked.
Guys, let's go ahead. We're going to take a short break. This is a massive, massive segment right here. We're coming back in our second segment. We got a little just a tip for you. Some what we're affectionately calling now ramp rage. You've heard of road rage. This is ramp rage. This is something different. I think I'm coining it trademark 2023 ramp rage. It's a thing. And then in Bait of the Week, we're going to be talking crankbaits. That's coming up in segment 2. We got Cody Dobberstein from Reaction Tackle in the beef seat, still coming in segment 3. The show is just going to be monumental. You guys don't want to miss it, guys. We'll see you in about 2 minutes with much more right after this. This is an official press release from Dark Horse Tackle. Dark Horse Tackle has a new website. Be on the lookout for an email from Dark Horse Tackle explaining how to move your subscription. There will also be a letter in your next box explaining how to move your subscription to the new website. Our former host platform, Cratejoy, inflicted outrageous fees on Dark Horse Tackle and made it almost impossible for us to continue to support American small business bait and tackle makers. It is vital that customers get their subscriptions moved to the new site by the following steps provided. Customers that move their subscriptions to the new site will be rewarded with a 50% off code for the brand new Build Your Own Box feature. For Jigs and Bigs listeners new to Dark Horse Tackle, the code is JNBBYOB25 for 25% off of a BYOB. Jig heads new to the Dark Horse Tackle family will receive a more substantial discount for the BYOB feature. The BYOB inventory grows with new bait drops on the 10th of every month. Make sure to check the notes of this podcast right now for that promo code and a link to Dark Horse Tackle. Jigs and Bigs wants to take a moment to say thank you to our partners for helping us continue to push the limits of our fishing adventures and bring you amazing long-form content. We're excited to offer Jigs and Bigs listeners a 15% off savings on your first installment of a month-to-month subscription to Dark Horse Tackle. Dark Horse Tackle provides a monthly supply of small batch, craft, and custom lures, allowing anglers to try some otherwise tough-to-discover baits. This is stuff you're not going to find just anywhere, and Dark Horse Tackle does the hard part for you. They track down these small companies and then test the baits to determine if they're good enough for the DHT community. Subscribe now at darkhorsetackle.com and use the promo code JIGSandBigs15 for your 15% off savings now. For all your premium kayak needs, we partner with Three Bells Outfitters. Located along Smith Cove in Niantic, Connecticut, Three Bells is your go-to location for kayaks and accessories by Hobie, Native, Bonafide, Jackson, Yak Attack, Naqua, Boondocks, Burley Pro, and much, much more. Financing options are available to upgrade your kayak fishing experience. White glove delivery service is also available. Visit threebellsoutfitters.com for more info, and don't forget to tell them that Jigs and Bigs sent you. When it comes to high-quality polarized sunglasses, we've partnered with Toredge. They provide stylish sunglasses in a variety of frames that are light and fit comfortably on your face. The polarization cuts glare and allows you to see the whole picture, helping you identify what's below the water's surface. They have a 60-day risk-free trial, a lifetime warranty, and free shipping. Plus, you can save yourself 10% off with the code JIGSandBigs10 at checkout. Visit Toredge.com to check out their selection and lens options. Again, we cannot thank our partners enough for their support. Please consider supporting them and supporting the show in the same process.
Bobby and Sean now have a special presentation for us all. They'd like to give everyone just the tip.
Just the tip. That's what we got here. We're full of information, and this week we've got one that pertains specifically to you folks that are out competing in the trenches when you're out doing your angling. What do you say, Joe? Go ahead, give it to us.
Yeah, so something happened to me yesterday I was not expecting, but luckily I was prepared for. So a lot of you big boat guys, big boat tournaments, or for those of you who don't do them, who don't know, most of the ones around here, you have to pick a number before you guys launch, just because you go in a launching order. Mm-hmm. Yesterday it was, 1 out of 25, and I went in, I picked my number, and I got 25. So that's 24 people that are heading to the spots in this lake ahead of me. Luckily, this was a large lake, but in my head, I had a plan of the spots I wanted to hit. Mm-hmm. What you have to do is make sure you have at least a few spots that you are willing to get to and hit first, because if you are not in the top 5, top 10, top 3, or whatever, there's a good chance that those spots are going to be taken, especially around here where the lakes, ponds, fisheries are a little bit smaller. Luckily for me, somehow, by some grace of God, nobody went to my top spot. So I was still able to get which is crazy to me, because it's the only prominent, very prominent point on this lake that has, and that's right. So I was very surprised that no one went there. Granted, I didn't catch a fucking thing on it, so maybe that's why they didn't go there. But it is where I caught those 2 3s the last time I went. So obviously I was going right back there. Yep. But have a plan in place for yourself. Don't if you're thinking about doing big boat tournaments, or you already do them, make sure you have a few spots in mind. And Sean knows this too, because he's been doing some with Loaded Potato. So there's a good chance the spot you have that is your go-to, that you want to, hit first, you're going to be racing to that spot for it, with other people if you're not in the top 5, let's say. So have a plan in place before you go. Do your research. Have a few spots in mind. I had 3 that I was planning on being my first to go to. My top wasn't chosen, so I got lucky there, but I did see people in my other 2. So maybe I should have went there. I don't fucking know. But Since I just got the information back. I got 10th out of 22 yesterday. So that's not bad.
Yeah, it's not too bad. Yeah.
Gave me some points, but yeah, have a plan in place. Don't expect or count on getting your top spot every single time when you're in the big boat world, especially if you pick the red token like I did and have to watch everybody race their spots before you. And you have to scream and yell the numbers for everybody else. My voice was fucking hoarse yesterday after that. But yeah, that's what I have for just the tip. Do your plan, have more than one spot in mind to start, and go out there, catch them, and put some fucking money in your pocket.
So
and that's all we got for just the tip.
I have a question.
For me.
You first, Bobby.
All right. So earlier we were talking about this in the pre-show meeting. Sean had mentioned, he was like, oh yeah, we grabbed the last one too. We were the call boat. Now, did that mean, I'm curious, do they put an official on your boat to call those numbers, or does the somebody from that boat have to call those numbers from them? Because in my mind, this is what I'm imagining. They put an official on Joe's boat, and when they call that last number, they just push that official in the water and take right off. Like that's what I imagine.
No, you're calling from your boat.
No, yeah.
They got to put me on a fucking payroll.
Yeah, no,
bitch.
in those low level,
I get $1,000 a day to talk. I am not calling out your boat numbers.
So when I do, that's just the local. Those are the local divisions. The championships, those will have a dedicated
boat.
Yeah, and as well as the regionals and the championship down at Hartwell. So
just imagine Joe running from the fucking driver's seat of his boat, pushing a dude off, jumping back down, firing.
Right before he starts calling numbers. Hey, asshole, you better have your fucking water wings on.
You better have your goddamn water.
It was funny because I was like, all right. I was like, because obviously as shitty as it sounds, I know my boat is a lot faster than a lot of these boats in there. Yeah. So in my head, I'm like, okay,
I can beat them.
I'm number 25. So I'm going to be like, all right, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. And then drop my shit and go.
All these boats are just taking up. It's just absolute
work
chaos. It looks like South Carolina anytime it gets near freezing.
Hey, Joe, I want to add something that I think you might be a little like with a conical view on this, a little narrow. This works for all boat fishing. It's not just big boat fishing, kayak fishing too.
There's an order for kayak fishing?
The difference is you have a shotgun start with kayak fishing and everybody goes at once.
Right.
But you still got to have a game plan. You still got to know where you're going.
Oh, that fits for sure.
If you've got a pedal kayak and somebody has a trolling motor kayak, and they get to your first choice before you got to anticipate that.
Right.
One of the things I always like to tell people too with, and this is why I don't ever get worried about numbers if I'm in a big boat tournament. If you're at a big boat tournament and you're at a lake where there's big boats, check and see if there was a tournament there recently, and then just fish around the ramp. It's so easy. You don't have to think because people have been catching larger fish and bringing them back to the ramp. Find the first piece of structure you can find that's near the ramp, and that's where the fish are going to go and take shelter, and you might be able to pull a couple out while they're recovering. It's just the way big boat tournaments are when you don't have a designated drop point in the middle of the lake, which some do and a lot don't.
Yeah. Yeah, that's actually a really good point because sometimes, I
actually, that was in kind of in my game plan yesterday towards especially if I was struggling. The problem is that fucking ramp is a goddamn nightmare. All day after 10 o'clock, it was you got your lake lice, you got all that. But oh god, it's literally constant. The ramp traffic is constant. It never stops at this place.
Yeah, I'm not saying sit on the ramp. I'm saying find the first piece of structure
in the air. Yep. And
I've won kayak tournaments knowing there's been big boat tournaments a day prior.
Yeah,
and gone to the first largest piece of shelter that the fish are going to get to.
Sure.
And they're there. They're just recovering, trying to figure their fucking lives out. They don't go back to their spots immediately. It's not like they immediately beeline. They're looking for cover because they're stressed out. So
that's actually
what am I going to do with my life now? This is my home.
Fucking squatters.
Well, are you guys ready to hear a story about ramp rage?
Let's do it.
Does it involve bees and fireworks?
No, it doesn't. None of those. But idiocy to the upteenth degree.
Fuck that guy. Fuck that guy. Fuck that guy.
So we got a phone call from using our new FTG hotline right there, which is it's kind of just the overall Jigs and Bigs hotline. You guys can use this to reach out to us and make phone calls anytime to give us feedback on the show or whatever it might be. You can reach out to us by just giving us a call. The phone number is 413-324-8519. 413-324-8519. Give us a call and, share your feelings about the show or air some grievances in our FTG segment toward folks that maybe have done you wrong. Like this call from the one and only Binya Outdoors. I'm going to go ahead and play this for you. We can talk about it right after the, I'll see you on the flippity flop.
Hey, Bobby. Hey, Sean. Mike, also known as Binya Outdoors. Got an FTG for you. I decided to finally take my boat out for the first time this year. I get to the boat ramp, and this couple is parked directly in the center of the ramp and proceeded to assemble their entire roof rack for their kayak. And by assemble, I don't mean put the kayak on. I mean literally get out the manual, argue about how it gets attached to the top of their car, and then spend 45 minutes loading 2 kayaks while everyone is staring at them, hoping they will move their car so that we can all launch our boats. Thought you guys would like that story. I sent Bobby a photo as well. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, there is a photo of this display of lack of common sense that I'll be posting on Instagram. You didn't like the story?
No.
Why is that?
Sean knows why.
Oh, hang on, Sean. You're muted.
Oh.
Yep. I was laughing because immediately when Binya said, "Hi, Bobby. Hi, Sean," he went right into the story. Joe made a face like, "What the fuck am I chopping?"
I know.
Thanks,
you know what?
Binya. I appreciate it.
I saw the text because when I get these voicemails that come in, I get an immediate text transcription of what it is. And it just automatically spells Sean's name the wrong way every single fucking time. And then there was no Joe. And I was like, I thought to myself, I'm like,
we're going to hear about that.
Maybe, you know what would be funny, just off topic before we get into this? Maybe it's time that we make an intro for Joe, and we'll take the G.I. Joe theme song from the cartoon in the 80s and go, "No Joe."
Or maybe we'll have it just go, did. Who the fuck is Joe Brown? Oh, he's here, guys.
All right, so this happens all the time.
This is,
What are you going to do?
I mean, and I'll be honest, what pisses me off is this. I'm going to give you guys a little bit of, I felt like a little bit like an FTG yesterday. When I was getting off the water, I had pulled my boat up to the launch, up to the ramp, and I put the landing gear down, and I was like, you know what, man? My feet are fucking killing me. I'm just going to back the trailer right up to the ramp and just pull it right up on that. I'm not going to bother walking it all the way back to where I'm parked. So I do that. I back the truck up and I pull it on there and I'm putting the straps on so I can pull away. And I'm looking around and I don't see anybody near us. There was where I was fishing, there were some picnic areas and there was a couple that was set up to picnic over there. And this one guy, my God, who had asked, he was getting his kayak ready. He comes over and he goes, yeah, how are they biting today? And I was like, it was pretty tough. I was like, a lot of finesse. We each caught a couple, but I was like, we really had to grind for them. And I'm like, it's the conditions, I mean, you get these bluebird skies overhead and minimal wind, and they just don't want to bite. And he was like, yeah, you're preaching to the choir. Well, this guy proceeded to drop in his wreck kayak, and he had a 5'4" ugly stick ultralight with a 6,000 reel on it. I am not kidding. I know because I have this rod, and he said to me, I was like, "Oh yeah, preaching to the choir. Yeah, absolutely. You've done this before." So he goes about his merry way. I thought he was the only guy there because he launched as I was rigging my stuff. He had no issues getting in the ramp. That was fine. What I didn't see was parked quite a ways away. There were a couple of folks that were rigging their boats. And as I was getting my shit put away and kind of distracted in conversation with Eric, I said to them, I was like, "Guys, I'll move out of your way. I apologize, man." And I thought of this voicemail. I was like, "Fuck, I'm that guy." And they're like, and I couldn't tell if the guy was just being smarmy about it when he was like, "No, if you're not blocking the way, nah, you're fine. You're fine." Because there was just enough salt in his voice to make me think like he was being a sarcastic a-hole. But I'm like, no, seriously, man, let me pull up. You know, I got a parking spot right over there. I can put my truck. I'm just standing here fucking bullshitting. I didn't even see them there. Now, obviously, had I seen them rigging, I 100% would have got my boat up on the trailer and just pulled into a parking spot and left it, finished whatever I was doing as far as putting my rods back and everything else. But I felt like I was almost this guy. And you're right. Like, what are you going to do in this kind of situation? Because it's the lack of awareness, I think, is the biggest thing.
So I have something on this.
Yeah.
And I know you have to do it tactically, in a tactful way. I know a lot of people don't like confrontation, but sometimes in these situations, you got to go educate them.
You do. Yeah.
You got to go educate them. You can't just sit there and watch because you know what's going to happen the next time they do this. They're going to do the same fucking thing.
They think
There's going to be a bunch of other people that are dealing with it. Be respectful until you don't have to be.
Yeah.
But that's just me. Go be respectful and educate them. Be like, hey, you need to do this outside of here. Yeah. You don't need to be blocking the boat ramp doing this.
Yeah. Yeah. Do this over here. And then, no, you're 100% right. It's a similar situation to when like this one body of water I like to fish, and I see it all the time, where there are cars without trailers parked at the ramp for the spots with trailers. And I know that DCR makes signs that say trailer parking only. Please, can we just get one there? Because many times it's the same thing. And you're right. Like, you got to be respectful. But after I've seen somebody there 2 or 3 times and they're doing it again, and I'll tell them, I'll be like, "Hey, just FYI, I called the cops and they're coming to yank all these cars that are here. You're all going to get ticketed. Like, you're done." And I'll just tell them, like, "Hey, even if you don't call the cops, you know what I mean? Like, put the heat on them where, like, might want to move your car because they're coming to dish out some tickets because you guys are parked where you're not supposed to be." Like, "What are you talking about? There's no sign." Be like, "Did you think that these fucking parking spots that are twice as long as your vehicle were just supersized? Is that what that is? Large fry, large drink? No. Fuck you." I'm a little passionate about that situation. My apologies if I lost my head there. But yeah, I think you're right. I think you do. You have to at least provide them the information that maybe the signage didn't, or maybe they missed the signage.
When I went out on Wednesday night or Thursday night with my son, I actually caused the same problem. Now, what I did was I was loading my boats into the water with my truck right there. With my leg being all fucked up, I wasn't dragging my boat, and I don't think I was able to drag my boat and his boat across the parking lot. And on top of that, while we were unloading, my son decided to have a little priority shift because he dropped his earbud case, and one of his fucking Raycons went flying into the goddamn woods. So he's walking around with his phone trying to turn the music on and turn it louder so he could hear one Ray bud in the undergrowth, which he never found. I'm like, "You got to help me out, dude. There's a boat waiting to come in." Yeah. And as soon as we got in the water, I went to the boat and I'm like, "Dude, I'm sorry it took me so long. I've got a busted leg," and he's dicking around, right?
Yeah, exactly.
The guy said, very simply, "No problem." He goes, "I'm wearing a silk leopard print shirt. Do you think I'm worried about time right now?" And I go, "No, good point. Thanks."
Wait,
man.
he actually said that to you?
No, he said that to me, yeah.
Holy shit.
This guy was sitting on his boat, chilling out. I don't know if he was smoking a doob or whatever. Good for him if he was, but he just said, "I'm wearing a leopard print shirt. How concerned about time do you think I am?" I'm like, "Fuck yeah, dude. Thank you." I said, "Just sure wear. I'm all fucked up. I doing my best here."
Yeah. No, that's exactly it. Like I think it's part of our like some folks' nature to be like, hey, I'm sorry, I'm blocking this. I'm taking up, your opportunity to get in here. But it's like, it's the lack of awareness that's the biggest issue. And with that couple that was putting their stuff together and then like busting out the instructions, wrong time, buddy.
Yep.
That should be done elsewhere. And then, when you're ready, go sit on the sidelines and have your juice until you're ready, and then we'll bring you back.
Yes, sir.
Fuckity fuck. All right. Well, fuck them. Ramp rage. It's a thing. Fuck them indeed. Binya's not even in here. I know he would just be like, yeah, but, or something. No, nothing. It's about that time, and this is a bait that we're going to talk about that I've been waiting to actually discuss for a while. It's one of those things that I usually only elect to throw when I'm junk fishing.
Jigs and Bigs, bait of the week.
And I should clarify junk fishing as I'm not fishing for like fentanyl. I'm fishing for like, I'm at a loss and I'm throwing the kitchen sink at them. Man, we're talking crankbaits here, guys. Kind of an umbrella term. Like if it's a crank, if it falls under that category, we're sort of covering it all right here. We did have some folks to talk about rods and reel combos as to what they're throwing cranks on. We'll definitely get to that. But I am very limited with what I throw for cranks. Typically, I like to throw square bills because I do fish shallow a lot. And I also like the deflection properties that they have for like, bouncing off of wood or rocks or anything like that. But I do fish a lot of ponds that are very heavy with grass. So I don't really fish cranks too often with any real depth necessarily. In those situations where I am fishing, I would say if I'm trying to fish a crank like more than like 4 or 5 feet, I'll generally throw a lipless. Like that's kind of my catch-all. But for me, that's about as into cranks as I really, really get. What about you guys?
Joe, why don't you go first? Because I've got a novel brewing.
Yeah. So I'm kind of I don't throw lipless. Very, very rarely do I throw lipless. Mm-hmm. I should, but I just don't. It's just something I haven't really gotten into. I do throw a ton of square bills, especially, around if I want to. I don't know. I don't really have I can't really say I have like specific techniques for my cranking unless I'm deep cranking. I do have techniques for that. So I'll go into that. So deep cranking, I love deep cranking, especially on hard bottoms, hard rocky bottoms, because I will just dig that fucking thing right into the gravel rock. I will dig it right up ledges. And I've caught some really quality fish doing last year. I think the biggest fish I caught last year, I caught doing that. It just pisses them off and they just hit it, those reaction strikes. I know Chrissy on here wanted to talk about want me throwing rods too. So I will say for when I'm throwing like my square bills or like my medium cranks, I actually, believe it or not, I have a Doomsday Tackle cranking rod. Yep. And I fucking love it.
Is it glass?
Love that rod. Huh?
Is it glass?
No, it's I don't believe it's glass. No. But it's like a 710.
Oh yeah. Crazy long casts.
Yep. I love it. I love that rod. The only thing I do not like about that rod is they don't put on hook keepers. That's the only thing I don't like.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I put it on my fucking reel and it like scratched up my reel. It pisses me off. But for my deep cranking, I use a Milliken, a 6 cents Milliken. I believe it's a 7.7 heavy. I believe. Mm-hmm. I don't know off the top of my head. Just because when you get a lot those when you're deep with those big build crankbaits, it's fucking heavy. Yeah, it's heavy. So you need a heavy rod. But for standard cranking, I'll use it. I don't throw it around typically. I'll throw it above grass and stuff, but I get pissed off. I'm getting hung up and shit like that. I'd rather throw a swim jig or a vibrating jig.
Yep.
Personally, me. I will throw it around timber and shit like that. Yeah, but I'm not a huge cranking guy, so I don't have specific techniques. This is definitely going to be, a Sean thing because he's a resident expert here. So let's hear it, Sean.
All right. Crankbaits. Let's start with the kinds I use. I'll get into rods, reels, and line later. Okay. Crankbaits. We've got lipless. We've got square bills, and we've got. When I call them round bills, I'm not going to use the term deep divers because I have very, very few what are considered deep divers.
Yeah.
My selection for Massachusetts is mostly square bills, and I don't honestly, I don't throw them around timber much. I throw them in open water.
Yeah.
Because there's no difference in open water between a square bill and a round bill.
Oh yeah.
So really, when it comes down to it, the square bill is more versatile, and I'm always about versatility with saving money. Why buy the same lure with a square bill and a round bill when the square bill can be thrown in open water?
Yep.
It just makes sense to me. I run my crankbaits around weeds a lot. If I have a 60, and you have to. This is the tough part. You have to determine using your electronics and not your forward-facing sonar, but your electronics and your line and your lure. Your lure's running depth is going to have some variation to it depending on your line diameter.
Yes.
So you have to figure that out. That's experience. I can't pop in a formula and say you're using this line diameter and this crankbait and it's going to cut or add 6 inches or a foot or 2 feet to it. That you have to experiment with this stuff yourself.
Yeah.
And that's where the frustration comes in. Like Joe, you said you don't like bouncing off weeds. So when you talk about running a deep crankbait at a depth that the crankbait is designed for deeper than it goes into the ground, right?
Right.
I will find a crankbait that I know if it's 6 feet or it's an 8-footer, I can run it through weeds. And I was actually just talking about this with Nelson yesterday on the 12-hour drive to and from Philadelphia. But there's places that I will find it'll be 8 feet deep. A crankbait runs to 4. The weeds will be up 6 feet high and it'll go to 2 feet. So in that way, I'll reel the crankbait down until I feel it hit the weeds, and then I'll stop, let it rise, reel it down again, so it makes a sawtooth.
Yeah,
a sawtooth line, and it'll come back that way. And I can't tell you how successful I've been with that over the years. That's been insane. I'll make sure in Minnesota, if I'm not running them alongside weed beds, I'm running them right on top of weed beds. And again, if I feel it nick the weeds, I just let it go for a second and go right back to it. And if you can get a weed bed that's only to 6 feet below the surface and you got a 4-foot diver, you can run that thing freely and it'll be right above the weeds. And it might tickle one. I mean, it's not like the weeds are manicured to be exactly 4 feet under the surface for an entire football field. You're gonna hit weeds. So again, in Massachusetts, I use really Rapala Rattling wraps and then various sizes up to R&R 8s in 4 colors. And then I don't get into rattle traps out here. For whatever reason, I haven't had a good rattle trap bite out here. Rattling wraps do a lot of damage for me. As far as square bills, which again are the bulk of my collection. Now, I should make mention, I'm slowly working a lot of these things out with the addition of A-Bay lures to my roster because Chris does a lot of these things don't have the paint jobs that I'm looking for, and Chris is filling that gap. And slowly, I'm seeing more and more A-Bay stuff in my tackle box, especially with the square bills. But I keep a 1.5 and a 2.5. The 2.5 I use most of the time. I do like using them without rattles if I can find them. Strike King makes an excellent one. It's a KVD series, but I will say this about Strike King. I love their bodies, their lure bodies. All their metal components seem to rust like fuck. No matter what I do, I don't know what Strike King is using. So if I don't replace everything right off the bat, that shit is rusting to fuck, and I don't know why. But those KVD models, the silent and the normal square bills, those do a lot of damage. I think I use 2 colors in those. Well, actually, no, I only use 1 color in that, and that's where the A-Bays are coming in. Another one that's kind of under the radar and very, very cheap, so I buy a lot of them. Academy's H2O Express brand crankbaits. And somebody just had an article on that in the past year or two about how valuable they are. And I have caught a ton of fish on those, particularly one color that I'm not going to get into.
Yeah.
And again, for Massachusetts, I don't use deep divers. I don't have any I don't have any round bill crankbaits in my box at all. I don't think. It's all square bills and lipless. The lipless and the square bills are so versatile that's all I use. If I have water deeper than 10 feet, I'm throwing a lipless and dragging it down there and using it as a deep diver. I don't bother with buying deep divers.
See, that's why I don't fool around with deep divers, is because to me, a lipless can fill that role.
Yeah.
You know?
It can. And they get that, they're versatile. Lipless are incredibly versatile with that, with depths. Going on to where, a lot of the fishing I do in Minnesota, because there's so many pike and the fish are so aggressive, and everybody's heard me say this a million times, I bump up my selection. So I do use some deeper divers because I have much deeper water there, and I have weed beds that are sunk at 15 to 20 feet. So I'm running over them. So I am getting DT 10s, DT 12s, 14s, 16s, and I'm running 1 ounce rattle traps. I'm running fucking rattle traps that are bigger than my hand.
Yeah.
And I'm catching 1 pound and 2 pound bass on them. They're aggressive and they'll hit them. And I'm catching bowfin and I'm catching pike. I haven't got any walleye on them yet, but I'm sure somebody will whack one of these days. Same thing. I really don't use, I think that's where I swap out the square bills because I'm just not seeing any timber in there, and I'm running those crankbaits in open water. It's almost like weed wall drop, and that's where I'm running the crankbaits. So I'm using a lot of Rapala models there, and the Rattling wraps and the rattle traps, because the rattle traps I can get bigger with. I don't use smaller rattle, Bill Lewis rattle traps. That's where that up to the R&R 8 size. I'm using the Rapala Rattling wraps, and then just boom, going right up to those 3/4 ounce, 1 ounce. I think they even make a 1 1/4 gigantic Rattling rattle traps, the Bill Lewis ones. For those, I will throw those on a pike or a musky rod, medium heavy, fast action tip with 20-pound fluoro straight. I don't bother with fucking leaders. I don't like using them. I think that leaders knock down a lot of the sensitivity. As far as any other crankbaits for anything that dives more than like 8 feet, so that's Minnesota, I'm using the slowest reel I can find, which if I can find a left hand 5.3, 5.5 to 1, I'll use that with 10 or 12 pound test. Again, it's open water, so I'm not going up to 14 or 16 or 15, anywhere in that neighborhood. Yeah. And I'm running it. I actually have a rod that I use up there. It's a brand that's been discontinued by a company called Halo. It's red and orange. I found 3 of them in a Walmart bin, and it's a medium heavy, but it's really, really soft. And I use all graphite. I don't bother with fucking glass.
I was just going to ask, is it glass?
No, I don't use glass. It's all again, if I need to use that to throw a worm, I can, and I'm not using a glass rod to throw a worm. It's about versatility. If you're buying a glass rod, you are eliminating that versatility.
You're dedicating that to a specific.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that Halo rod has done a real great job with doing what I do. But one of the things that I look for with jig rods and with cranking rods or moving bait rods, the only time I don't look for this is with frog rods, because I've learned my lesson. I make sure that I buy micro guides or hybrids. I don't if a rod line comes out and it has standard size line guides, I won't buy it. Unless it's for a frog rod. The frog rod, I will do that. So that's why I like that Arc Invoker Pro, because I've learned that braid and micro guides do not get along very well at all. They don't.
Yeah, you're right.
It's not good. Fluorocarbon, no matter the diameter of it, will go through micro guides, and that is one of the reasons I also don't use leaders, because those knots don't. No matter how small of a knot you tie.
Yep.
It's the last like 3 guides are going to have problems with that knot going through. So I don't use leaders at all.
Yeah, that tink tink tink.
That's interesting, man. Because I have a rod that I use for like this time of year. I'll throw like a floating jerkbait on it, but I'll also throw like my ploppers, my poppers, my walking baits, all that stuff, and it has micro guides. And I use mono on that one for that exact reason, because braid does not like it.
Yep, exactly. And I'll use all of those rods I'm talking about with any crankbaiting. I'm using generally for Minnesota with that one rod, I'm using 12-pound fluorocarbon. For my pike rod, I'm using 20-pound fluorocarbon.
Yep. At
home, I actually have 2 identical combos set up. I feel I can use for both, but one of them I generally think about it this way. They're both medium, heavy, fast Arc Invoker Pros.
Yep.
Both of them have, I think they're 6.3 to 1.
What's the length on those rods?
7.1.
7.1?
Yeah, I don't use smaller rods anymore. I'm not fishing from the bank. I'll never buy another 6'10" rod. I start at 7.1 and go up from there. The casting distance is just, it adds so much.
Yeah.
What I'll do is I have those 7.1 rods, micro guides, Arc Invoker Pros, or they might be hybrids, whatever they are. They're not standard. 2, 6, whatever they are, 6.3 to 1 lose reels. One has 12-pound test, one has 14. The difference is the 14, I generally tend to run my chatterbaits on, and if I need to, I'll run a lipless on that. That depends on the structure. So if there's grass, I can run either, but if we're getting a little funky with rocks or this or that or the other thing, I'll use the 14.
Yeah.
Yep. But generally, when I go out, the other rod is set up with 12-pound test. The 12-pound test will have whatever bait has 2 treble hooks on it, whether it's a crankbait or whether it's a lipless or a lipped. The other one will generally start with a chatterbait. Easy enough.
Yeah.
And then that 14-pounder, the drag is tightened. So like a lot of the times when I hear people say, well, I got to get a glass rod. No, you don't. If you're worried about the pull, that initial pull when you're reeling your lure in and the fish attacks it and it feels like that mousetrap going off, loosen your drag a little bit. They'll pull the drag.
Yeah.
I don't mean pull it clean out. You want to have some tension on it for the hook set itself, but you let the fish do all the work. I don't use, like I said, I have that one medium rod that I use in Minnesota because it's a different kind of cranking.
Yep.
Up here in the Northeast, medium heavies are fine. You can throw anything you want on them. I actually prefer them because they're stiffer. So yeah, if you get whacked by that big pike or that big pickerel, you're going to be able to get it in. Yeah. And really what it comes down to is square bills wobble just as much, I think, as a round bill. If not, they're very close. But when you throw a round bill crankbait, a DT10, a DT12, the pull on that rod is immense. And what that medium rod does is it diffuses that wobble on your wrists and on your arms. And it's a lot smoother. It makes going from a medium heavy to a medium with the same lipped crankbait in 12 feet of water, a DT12. If you go from that medium heavy to the medium, both fast action tips, it's the equivalent of going from using one rod and going from a lipped crankbait to a lipless. You don't have that pull on your arms. Yep. And it gets tiring. It's like throwing a frog all day, tiring if you keep doing that. So, like I said, that I believe that musky rod I have, that Piker musky rod, is a Shimano. And I think I have a 6-speed reel on there, if not a 5, 20-pound fluoro. I don't use mediums in the Northeast. I use only medium heavies. And I've had a lot of success with crankbaits over the years. I mean, honestly, learning to power fish, I learned to power fish with a lipless crankbait at first. And then I think I learned chatterbait techniques. But lipless crankbait, for me, is what taught me how to power fish. It wasn't spinnerbaits. It wasn't chatterbaits. It was a lipless. It was a Rapala R and R7s where they catch everything. I love them.
So I throw my my moving baits, actually pretty much all moving baits, with the exception of spinner baits. I usually throw them on my 7.3 medium fast action, specifically because I wanted to avoid having to get into anything that was like super specific. I wanted to go graphite, so that extra length, it gives it a little bit more tip than like a 7-foot in that configuration. But also the medium action means that it takes less force to get that to bend a little bit. So it kind of like works in the middle. So on this rod, I usually will have and this is fast for a crankbait. I'll usually throw it on a 7-speed reel. And the reason is if I find it much easier to slow down and meticulously crank than it is to burn it manually. And if I need to burn it, I'd rather be able to comfortably reel and have it. So I just generally lean that way. For the most part, I always throw 14-pound fluoro. I should, but again, like I'm talking, I'm throwing baits super shallow, like square bills, super shallow, or I'm throwing lipless, which will get to, a level. And oftentimes I'm yo-yoing them like through grass and ripping them. So it's a little less, the line diameter is a little bit less of a concern because I'm not looking for a meticulous depth per se. When I'm throwing a lipless, lots of times it is to throw it in the grass, get it all, wrapped up and then just rip it right out. And then I'll crank it and then kill it and then rip it out of the grass, something like that. So there is, I think when it comes to crankbait fishing, there's a little bit more of that preference that comes into play, when it comes to finding the right rod. But so Chrissy had mentioned in here in the comments, she would ask us about doing this. And Zach had chimed in and said, he goes, I love my Dobbins Champion glass rod for cranking. And then Chrissy says, I hear a lot of good things about Dobbins rods, but I've never used a fast action for crankbaits. A fast action on a glass rod is different than a fast action on a graphite rod. By its own nature, it's going to be more moderate than it would be in a graphite. So, you got to try what you're doing. So if you're with somebody who is super into crankbait fishing, I recommend asking them to try their setup. It's almost like buying a kayak, it's better to get your ass in it, and try it before you dedicate something if you're going to go down that road. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Oh. Does. I mean, I don't know. I would, like I said, I understand that anglers, we spend a lot of money, but we're always trying not to, but then something new catches our eye or we see an ad for something I don't know, man. I have had so much success with crankbaits. I don't worry about glass. I don't think we need to. It just seems like one of those things. Glass popped back up, and it was almost for me like somebody's run out of ideas. Now it's time to go back to glass rods. I think graphite does what it needs to do, more often. And it was actually, I know when we talked about this last week with chucking and winding, and you guys were both surprised that I don't do that yo-yoing shit.
Yeah.
I don't think you need to. I think it's a kind of a hat on a hat. You can throw jigs in a cover. You can throw plastics in a cover.
Yeah.
Open water, run it over and around, and you're gonna get that reaction bite. I think a lot better with chucking and winding. I mean, I never yo-yo. I'm still gonna catch grass when I'm reeling back in.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm gonna get those fish that might be staring at it, and you yank it through the grass just like with a chatterbait. But yeah, it's very surprising to me that you guys haven't just chucked. I mean, they're kind of no-brainers. Just throw it out there and see what they do, and you don't have to go bombing to and from, especially in cold water.
Yeah.
Oh my God, in cold water with a slow-mo, and I guess when it comes to speeds of reels, I just like, you said you like to maintain that similar reeling at all, pretty much as much as you can without going too fast, too slow. That's why I use those slower reels, so I can maintain my pace without. Yeah,
that's exactly what I mean. Like it's more like what's easier for you to do. Like some people have I'm one of those people. I have no problem if I need to slow down, slowing it down to a snail's pace. Other people just can't do that. And I have one of those 5-speed reels, and I'll tell you when it comes in really, really good is when I'm throwing a 6-inch mag draft on my heavy rod, and I throw that. And if you go too fast with that, the action goes to hot garbage right away. So that 5-speed reel allows me to keep that momentum. But then again, I'll throw those big wake baits on an 8-speed reel. So this way I can utilize quarter turns to articulate a little bit, get more of a choppy, erratic sort of motion. So it's just that I think is one of the biggest factors where it's it gets down to the angler and figuring it out. A good example I like to use when it comes to the specifics is actually a time that I was out fishing with Chrissy, and she was just smoking them on this one bait. And she was like, you want to give one a shot? I got plenty of them. Here you go. So I took one, and I carry 2 spinning rods. I have one that's a 7-foot medium extra fast and one that's a 7.3 medium light extra fast. And I love the sensitivity. That's why I use the extra fast, but that 7.3 does have more tip than the 7-foot. 7 foot is just super stout. I tied this on the 7-foot because it's what I had in my hands. And as I was casting it, I could tell right away that like there was something not right about it. And it would get bit. And as I would try to sweep, I was basically just pulling the lure away. There wasn't that delay in the action with the lure there. So I wasn't connecting with anything. And I said, you know what? Let me cut this off and cut my drop shot off and go to that 7.3. Immediately, I started hooking up with fish. And this is where it's one of those things where I like to suggest to people, carry a spectrum of rods. You know, so if you need something that's got a little bit more moderate of an action or something like that, or you need maybe keep an extra 6-speed reel around and you're like, hey, this 8 is fucking it up and I got to slow down. Take 5 minutes and switch it out and make a change. Use a spinning reel if you have to slow down. You know, those by nature are usually at the most you'll get like 6 to 1. That can often be the trick. And doing that little change was immediately a night and day difference. Like a switch went off with being able to connect. So that's part of the reason why I recommend, like, yeah, carry a spectrum. And actually with crankbaits, I would say that there are crankbaits that I exclusively throw on spinning tackle, on spinning gear, just because the cranks are so light. You know, they're so small, like the micro cranks and things that are out there. So like I'll throw that stuff on some of these other deals. And if you're like, dude, I can't do it, I just can't throw a spinning rod, get into BFS. Fuck around with a little bit with that, because that's what that stuff's for. Not throwing in the weeds, Joe.
If anybody is listening to this, if anybody's listening to this and they say, well, that's great, a spectrum of rod's great, but I can only afford like maybe 2 or 3 good ones.
You could do a spectrum in 3.
Okay, so let's say we have 3 rods, right? So if you're taking 3 rods with you and they've got 1 designated for frogging, so now we're down to 2 that you could possibly use for cranking, what I would suggest to everyone is all of this can be bypassed by mastering drag.
I agree, because drag is a big part, because what it is, it's not that, oh, I need to know more moderate tip, or, oh, I need to use mono because it's got stretch. It's just having that variable of motion. Drag is huge. The only thing that drag won't help you with is that casting of something that's too light. That's where it's, you know, having that spectrum is a good thing. So that way you've got something light enough to be able to throw that, you know, 1/32 ounce jig directly under that maple leaf. But with crankbaits, I mean, even a 1.5 I can launch with my crankbait rod that I'm using here. So 12 pound, 7.1 medium heavy fast, that'll go. I mean, if you're using smaller than that, you're ultralight fishing for me in my book. I mean, that's smaller than a 1.5. I agree.
Yeah, you're going tiny. So again, bang for the buck, and the more versatility you can have. My opinion, my recommendation would be buy a medium heavy fast, 12 pound fluorocarbon. I prefer, you know, a 6 or a 5 reel. The 5s are becoming harder and harder to find. Yep. And then make sure when you know, really the difference is with crankbaits versus chatterbaits, and the more treble hooks you have, the looser your drag needs to be. Yeah. That's really the bottom line. And then it's just a matter of figuring out, okay, so it's this type for a chatterbait. I want to loosen it up, maybe a crank or 2, depending on your reel, for a lipless, and then maybe 1 or 2 more for a lipped, whether it's a square bill or not, and depends on what you're throwing it into too. So, I mean, obviously you don't want it too loose that when you're throwing a square bill, you're throwing a round bill that you get it to weeds and you pull out and all you feel is your drag pull. You want it tight enough to pull through that shit. But if you're in open water, you can really open it up. Yeah. And then when a fish hits it and it feels like you're pulling it away when you go for the hook set, that drag is going to give you that flexibility to pull a little bit of line out. It's going to keep the fish the fish on the lure, and you're going to get that hook set. Yep. And again, it's just like anything else, like with frogs and like with a drop shot. It's not a jig hook set. It's not a rear back and set it. It's a nice steady sweep. And
sweep the leg, baby.
People have trouble learning that. I see a lot of guys, experienced fishermen, just yanking the fuck out of a crankbait, and they're like, well, I pulled it out of its mouth. Yeah, you did. If you just would have a nice steady sweep just to put pressure on it, that's a whole different ball game. But yeah, there's a whole bunch of crankbait info for all you folks.
I want to throw one other thing in here, guys. Where do you weigh in on flat-sided crankbaits? When and where?
A lipless is a flat-sided. You're talking flat-sided lipped?
I'm talking flat-sided lip, like a Fritz, like a Fritz style bait.
I don't think I've ever thrown one.
No,
I tried Pose years ago because I think they were the originator of it, and I never used them again. I don't use them.
I caught the only thing I caught out of Moosehead was a crawfish on a flat-sided crank. The circuit board bill, like I was just like, hey man, colder water, okay, we'll give it a shot. I'd rather have one of these than not. And actually, I take that back. I caught that craw on a Ned rig, and I saw it, and I said, well, this is the same exact craw pattern. Let's see what we can fuck around with and what comes up. I'll tell you, it's a super nice, tight fucking wobble. Super tight. But, you know, I'm still learning there. I was just curious if I could pillage any information off of you guys, but clearly I
don't use them. Yeah, I stick. I find 3 or 4 things I trust, and I've trusted those Rapala R&R 7s. I think I bought my first one and really started having success in like 2004.
Yeah.
So I've been using those for 20 years, and I will not stop using them. They're fucking phenomenal.
And you shouldn't stop using them.
I won't. God damn it.
All right. We're doing pretty good so far, guys. We got one other segment to get to. You don't want to miss this. We got the face of Reaction Tackle joining us. We got Cody Dobberstein joining us. You're not going to want to miss it, guys. We talk about Reaction Tackle. He shares a wild freaking story where he suffered a pretty significant injury on the water, like very significant, in an area of the world that you don't want to have this type of injury, but there was definitely a silver lining there. We got good stuff coming up there. We will see you guys at the end of that for the wrap-up. Don't go too far. Much more Jigs and Bigs coming up right after this. Hey guys, Bobby Roast Beef here from Jigs and Bigs. You know, if there's one thing I can't stand spending money on, it's on something that's not versatile, something that I can't get a lot of use out of. I want to talk to you about Frost Buddy. What Frost Buddy is it's one of those can coolers. I've seen these before. In fact, I have some that are limited to only fitting one specific size of can, like a standard 12-ounce can. I stumbled onto Frost Buddy, and I was blown away with it. So versatile. Fits standard cans, tall cans, slim cans, and even 12-ounce bottles. And the magic is the insert fits all of these items in various stages within the insert. And when you take that out, you can fit a full 16-ounce tall boy can. In fact, it even doubles down on being versatile with the coffee lid. And on my recent trip to Chickamauga, I had a field day with this thing. I was throwing beer cans in it. I'd have coffee in the morning. On the drive, I was throwing in all different sizes of cans for different canned coffee products to keep me awake on the long drive back. The thing was amazing. So I recommend you check out Frost Buddy. If you're in the market for either a travel cup for your coffee or a can cooler at all, either one of those, check it out. For the money, you cannot go wrong. What I've done is this. In the show notes for this podcast you're listening to right now, if you look there, you'll find a link to Frost Buddy where you can get yours. And not only can you go and get your Frost Buddy there, but you can help out the show as well. Go and visit that link in the show notes to this podcast. Check out a Frost Buddy. Tons of colors, tons of patterns, all kinds of great stuff. And it's a great spot to put your Jigs and Big sticker too. Take it from me, Bobby Roast Beef. You're going to get the most versatility out of this one product, probably out of anything you're ever going to buy, especially for anything that you're drinking. Frost Buddy. It works for me. I'm a happy guy. Jigs and Bigs is your favorite fishing podcast, right? Why not show the world how much you love the show while directly supporting us? We have men's and ladies' shirts, hoodies, and a variety of hats. We even have a waterproof outdoor Bluetooth speaker so you can listen to your favorite podcast while out on the water if you like. Check out jigsandbigs.com/shop to visit the store and gear yourself up. If you really can't get enough of this show, consider becoming a jighead and joining our Patreon. It's a subscription that gives you exclusive access to recording sessions that allow you to engage with us as we record the show. We also have some exclusive content there just for our jigheads and even have some special promo codes. Space is limited, so join now at jigsandbigs.com. Finally, if you're local to our area in Western Massachusetts, consider checking out the Western Mass Fishing Report, posted weekly at northeastwildwoman.com. We have amazing contributors providing great content and info for local conditions and what's been going on and working recently. Jigs and Bigs, so much more than just two lightly roasted hippies trapped in the 90s arguing on the internet about fishing. Jigs and Bigs. It's Bobby Roast Beef, and we have a brand new guest in the beef seat. This is a guest that is representing a company I've really wanted to have on here for a while. We got Cody Dobberstein from Reaction Tackle. Now, if you're a regular listener of Jigs and Bigs, you have absolutely heard me mention Reaction Tackle multiple times. I've been using Reaction Tackle's products since really about 2019. 2019, early 2020. I got into using a handful of those products, and we'll go through some of this stuff. But first, let me welcome Cody. How you doing, buddy? How's things? Good to have you.
Oh, rock and roll, man. Bobby Roast Beef. Super psyched to be here. Thanks for having me.
It's happened, man. I love it. You're one of the select few guests who had been, putting on social media that you were going to be on the show, in advance of actually even recording. So this is really, really good. I got to tell you, man, I have a long relationship with Reaction Tackle. In fact, in a way, the entire Jigs and Bigs family sort of has a long relationship with Reaction Tackle. I found out yesterday, I was talking with Sean the Fisherman, and he has been using Reaction Tackle, the camo braid for a number of years now, like at least 3 years, and absolutely loves it. That's like his go-to brand of braid. And that's pretty amazing. I know that Who the Fuck is Joe Brown? He's got that retail experience from owning Old Glory Outdoors and everything. And I can remember early on we had a conversation. He was like, I would love to get their stuff in here. And a big reason why Reaction Tackle is so important to Jigs and Bigs is because we're a Massachusetts-based podcast and we're a lead-free state. And when I say lead-free, like there's specifics in there. It's a little crazy, like lead chatterbaits and lead spinnerbaits and things with blades and stuff. That's fine, but you're talking sinkers an ounce or under, you're prohibited from using. So that's where lead alternatives are a big deal. And let's be honest, like if you're going to look at lead alternatives, tungsten is the premium choice. But what's nice about Reaction Tackle is they kind of make it digestible to not pay that premium price for such a great product. And that I got to give you guys huge applause on, because you have a variety.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
You have a variety of tungsten stuff, and a handful of tungsten items that, like, it's funny. I got into using Reaction Tackle because of the belly weighted tungsten underspin that you guys offer. And it was one of those things where I got my hands on one from another company, and I loved it, and I lost it because I was bank fishing exclusively back then. So I said, I gotta get more of these. These are awesome. And I ended up going to Amazon, and that's how I discovered Reaction Tackle. So I ordered a whole bunch more, and I realized that it was the exact same quality. It was at a much, much better value overall. And then I realized after looking at the law that I don't have to throw tungsten underspins here. I could throw the lead. But I love them, and I still buy them to this day, as well as, and I'll go through the list right now just to kind of bring a little bit of sort of an idea of what's going on. I use the tungsten shaky heads. I use the tungsten Ned Rig shroom jigs in both the standard open hook and in the EWG, which I feel like I kind of dropped that little nugget of potential early on that we need to see EWG Ned heads, and I'm glad Reaction Tackle has them. I also use the swing head football jigs. I use the tungsten swim bait jigs. I use, because there's no blade there, I need to use tungsten. I use, what else? I have some of the tungsten ball head jigs. I also use Reaction Tackle braid, Reaction Tackle fluorocarbon, as I've got a couple of spools that I use for different leader line. I also have Reaction Tackle. I'm a little fanboy here. I have
I can tell. I love it. It's a laundry list.
It is the Reaction Tackle 3700 size waterproof tackle boxes, which, by the way, they have been in some shit since I've gotten them, and they are wonderful. I've actually had Plano ones. I need a new thermal tackle box because my Plano one has just the gasket's just shit. It's just letting water in. I've got rust all over the place, so got to make a change there. I have multiple Reaction Tackle bait binders, and I have one that's dedicated to swim baits exclusively. And I use the Reaction Tackle pliers, and I'm sure. And the wacky tool. God, you can't
forget the damn wacky tool.
You can't. So yeah, as you can see, I love their products, and anytime anybody asks me what it is that I'm using, I'm always suggesting you get way more quality and value for your money with Reaction Tackle. I love it. It sounds ridiculous, but they're not paying me to say this, ladies and gentlemen. They're really not. They're really, really not. So let's talk, Cody, about your sort of background in fishing. What kind of developed this interest? Because you actually, and also let's talk about your role with Reaction Tackle as well.
Yeah.
What is it that you're doing? Kind of how you went there, because you mentioned another company that you worked with from an entirely different field. But it's funny, I forgot to, or I neglected to tell you something about that company. No. It was another company. I'm messing that up. I'm getting old, dude. So tell me about the road of like how you got introduced to fishing, but then how it kind of ended up bringing you here, where you're working on the social media aspects of Reaction.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's start from the ground up. Let's talk about my fishing experience. Let's talk about, so I would always go fishing with my grandpa, little ponds here and there, little, little worms, and then we'd play with the geese or whatever when I was a real young little man. And I actually didn't fall in love with fishing until I was 16 years old. I took a trip to Kentucky with one of my best friends. And his uncle had around 50 acres, and he had a stocked pond in the back full of catfish.
Oh, God.
And I was raised in New Berlin, Wisconsin, which is centralized. It's fairly metropolitan area, and not a ton of experience with like the outdoors growing up.
Yep.
So when I got this opportunity to go with my buddy down to Kentucky, I was like, my goodness, I am ready to rock and roll.
Yeah.
So we went down there, and his uncle's like, yeah, head on back, go catch some catfish for us. We'll fry them up for dinner. And I was like, where am I? What is going on?
Yeah.
And so we go back there, me and my best bud, Dan, and I caught one or two catfish. And just the feeling of having something that is attached to the line that you threw out there, tugging on it, and you being able to reel it up.
Yep.
I fell in love with that.
Yeah.
And it was this primal feeling of just going out there, similar to, hunting. They go hand in hand, hunting, fishing. It's this primal thing within you. And so instantly I was bit by that fishing bug. And when I got home from that trip, I was like, Dan, we got to get back out, man. We got to go fish. I can't stop thinking about fishing. So we went out to some of the local lakes, and Minnesota is called the land of 10,000 lakes, but Wisconsin actually has more lakes than
That's
Minnesota.
true. It is. That's 100% true.
And which is phenomenal. I wish I had more experience growing up in fishing, because the accessibility and the different types of lakes we have around here is phenomenal. So, that just kind of segued into just falling more and more in love with shoreline fishing. And then naturally, I was like, there's got to be more fish in the middle of the lake. I got to experience more of these lakes. I got to get actually out there. So I actually ended up buying a boat my senior year of high school. So 2 years had gone by shoreline fishing. 16 to 18, I got a boat when I was senior. So I was 18 years old, and fished a whole bunch my senior year. And then I was off to college, and didn't fish for a little bit of time there, focusing on my education. And, I'd come home for the summers. I went to UW Milwaukee, and I stayed in the dorms there, and I played club baseball for their club team there. So I was very busy with academics and sports.
Yeah.
So when it came to my education, that was first and foremost. But I actually tried to start a club fishing team at UW Milwaukee because they didn't have a team. And I was like, why does Whitewater? Why do all these these other schools have one? But one of the largest schools, one of the universities in Wisconsin, why don't we have a club fishing team?
Yeah.
So I went through the process, trying to create the team, and ultimately ended up falling through. I got too busy with things. But still to the day, if somebody from UW Milwaukee is listening to this, like, get a team rocking and rolling, and Reaction Tackles wants to be a part of it.
Oh, yeah.
So, that was ultimately how I fell in love with it. And so I ended up getting a boat, 17-foot Merc tracker with 25 horse pull on the back, fish finder, live well. Still have the boat till today.
That's awesome.
And we can get into it later, but my trailer ended up breaking 2 weeks ago, a little bit of rust on it, and the tongue snapped. Luckily, I had ordered a trailer a few weeks ago, so it just arrived this week, which I'm super psyched about.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, super psyched to get back out on the water. So that's kind of ultimately what took place with fishing, and how I fell in love with it, and was able to then get out on the water and experience, more and more different species. I've yet to really, get back outside of Wisconsin and do fishing outside of, maybe going to a vacation spot and doing some deep sea fishing.
Yeah.
Which is, there's a lot on my bucket list to get out and do and to experience different species and fish different terrains and things like that.
For sure.
So second part of your question then was, what was that again? So that was my fishing experience. You want to talk about now, like
your role with Reaction Tackle and like how you got to where you are right now.
Yeah, man. So I worked in industrial tool manufacturing. I was at Milwaukee Tool for 4 or 5 years. I was in their marketing. I was doing merchandising for them. So I actually ran a very, very custom specific program for them called SWAS, or Store Within a Store, which was really, really cool. It exposed me to a lot of really great industry professionals, and I got to travel the country and get, a different perspective on things. Really, everything truly is relative when it comes to human beings and their experiences. So that really opened up my mindset. And then I ended up transitioning over to another industrial tool manufacturer, and I was selling hoists. Which was, no offense, but it was very boring.
I believe it, man.
Really trying to,
that's a crazy niche within a niche. Yeah, I can believe that.
Yeah. So that was kind of boring, and I was just itching to get out. I was thinking about fishing. I was always thinking about the outdoors. I was, when I was working there, I was always like, man, I can't wait to get off so I can get outside and, really just get out there. So I, one day actually Reaction Tackle reached out on I believe it was LinkedIn or Glassdoor, one of those networking, find a job type sites. And, I saw that email come in and I was like, shut the front door.
Yeah.
I was so pumped. And so I reached back out to them. The role they were hiring for was an email marketing role.
Mm-hmm.
So I went in, got an interviewed with them. And, unfortunately they came back and they said, we found a different candidate for the role.
Yeah.
And what happened was I spent the majority of the time during that interview talking about social media and becoming a face of the company for them and doing, P&P partnerships and promotions for them, that they came back and they just said, we found somebody better that was more tailored to email marketing. And boy, oh boy, did I get down on my hands and knees and beg for them to reconsider.
Yeah.
Oh man. I sent them a huge long spiel. I said how disappointed I was. This, that, and the other. And Chad came back and he said, he's like, all right, pitch me a 40-hour work week. What does that look like? What are you going to bring to the table? And again, I just sent him this huge long spiel and he's like, okay. Come in for another interview. Let's talk about it more specifically.
Yeah.
And so I come back in person. I'm just absolutely sweating bullets. I'm so anxious about this whole process. I'm like, please. And I come in there, we have this nice long conversation and they go, okay, we're going to bring you on the team. This is the right moment in time for Reaction Tackle.
Yep.
We're ripe for growth. All these different things about how well the business is doing. And so they bring me a part of the team. And still to this day, it's a very flexible, loose position. What I'm really doing is I'm in charge of all the social media. The brand really didn't have a face. It was, what you know about the company was Reaction Tackle and the colors and then the products.
Yep.
And I pitched them. I wanted to be the face of the company because I think it's very important when looking at a company, you have, not just a point of contact, but you have a familiarization and a personality that goes along and matches that company too.
Yeah, 100%.
And I think I bring this, kind of fun, energetic, young, kind of personality to the brand that I think a lot of people have been enjoying the last 4 weeks that I've been with the company.
Yep.
And I'm just so psyched for whatever this position holds and whatever I can go out and whoever I can partner with. So that's ultimately why I'm here, Bobby. I
that's
love
amazing
to chat with awesome people. I love to promote awesome products, and that my friends is, the key is having an awesome product to promote. And we certainly do have those, and it's backed by popular demand, right? You mentioned those Ned rigs.
Yeah, no, 100%. And the beauty of it is, and I think like you nailed it, you said like you've only been there for 4 weeks, but I got to be honest with you. I haven't seen this much as far as like engaging content coming through from Reaction Tackle in a while. So much that now I feel like there's much more of a unification in the pro staffers. Like, full transparency, guys, I've been a Reaction Tackle pro staffer since 2020, just because I love their stuff. And I'm like, if I'm going to suggest this stuff to everybody, and now I have a platform to kind of do it, let's go ahead and like make this happen. And, you know, this way I can kind of give value to the clients. In fact, in all of our podcasts, there's a link in there where folks can go and buy Reaction Tackle using my affiliate code right there. Just go ahead and get your stuff, and you get a little bit of a discount there. They run, all kinds of stuff for promos as far as like free shipping. Like, I think right now there's one that's free shipping on orders over $20. Like, you're going to hit that in a handful of items. You know, so it's a good thing for everybody. But like the Pro Staff Facebook group, I'm assuming that was your idea.
Absolutely,
dude.
Yeah, that was for. Well, let's back up here now. Bob.
All right, okay.
The biggest thing when it comes to doing things that people like is listening to those people. So we've got a significant pro staff, and the first thing I needed to do was understand who you all are, and what are your wants and needs, and what are we doing, what are we not doing good.
And
I sent out a survey. I sent out a survey, and literally there was 10, 15 people like, hey, let's get a Facebook group going. We want to know who else is on the staff. We want to connect with each other. We want to potentially fish with each other. Let's get it together. And then so I put one together, and we're really using it. We're really using this group as
that's awesome.
You know, what pros and cons? What should we bring to the market? What are you guys currently doing? And then making it fun. I think if you're working, let's have fun.
You've got to keep it fun. You do all the time. Even if you're fishing recreationally, you just got to be having a good time. It's important. And the thing that I love is that I didn't realize the network of pro staffers for Reaction Tackle. Like, I thought I was like one in like 4 or 5 guys in the country. To be completely honest, because I've had conversations with Chad via DM and email before, and I really you get the feeling that this is a very, very small operation, minimal staff, and they're just kind of making some things happen. And like, I felt like nobody was really talking about this. Come to find out, there are other pro staffers that are right here in Massachusetts. So I'm going to try to make it a point to connect with some of these specific anglers, because, that's where our show is rooted in. It's in Western Massachusetts. I want to try to, speak with some of these other anglers that have been using the Reaction Tackle products and kind of get some of their insight. But I also never realized the sheer variety of anglers there were in this pro staff group. They fall into all types of different niches. I'm not just talking about, saltwater anglers and freshwater anglers. Like, even beyond that, there are folks that don't focus on bass at all. Like, that's not their target whatsoever. And they're tournament anglers, and it's just, it's wild. It blows my mind. I love seeing the vastness of the community kind of coming together. And I think that that's a really good thing. And I think that the Facebook group for sure is reflective of that. And I think it's awesome. Let's talk.
Yeah, and quick too to that point, man. Like, when it comes to pro staffers, I want to make a quick note to say that I thought pro staff meant you're a professional staffer.
No, it doesn't. It does not. That's a common.
For those who are listening, promotional staffers.
Yep.
Okay, so when it comes to that, creating a says you need 10,000 followers to be able to promote our products, right? Is that something that we want to do, or do we want to look and be more hey, although you may not have social media, you might be a guide out of Texas or Florida,
just going to say,
and you're chatting with 10, 15 people a day, and you're using our product, and you're looked at as an expert, and then people want to buy from they want to buy products that the experts are using. Yeah. That's something that we don't want to put that gate up. We don't want to be cookie cutter. Reaction Tackle is not that way. We're not cookie cutter. We're, let's take a look at everybody individually. And so I'm screening now each individual person that comes through. We have a 20 to 30 minute phone call. Let's get to know each other. Tell me about your life and your experiences.
Yeah, I think that's really important. And I mean, the pro staff thing is not really anything new. I mean, it's new in the terms of the way it's used on social media. And that's a very powerful side of it. But like the early companies, pre-social media, pre-internet, the pro staffs were, obviously, like, you would have anglers that would make television appearances and stuff, and that was one thing. But guides were huge because their career was built on bringing people out and fishing the bodies of water that they're experienced in. So you would, hand somebody a rod that's using, whatever brand's terminal tackle, the rod reel line itself. They might be partnering with these companies specifically to show and reflect what they're doing. And now you've got firsthand experience saying, oh, these are the baits that I throw and here's why. And that it's almost like you're in a way staffing, but it's all word of mouth. Directly getting your hands on the products and trying these things. And it goes a long way. I recently had gone on Chickamauga and fished with a guide there. And we had such a good time. But there was like a bunch of, he wasn't even pro staffing for this one company, but there's a JDM company called Jackal that makes this little like micro chatterbait. And it is just amazing. And I was just like, you should be pro staffing for this, man. Like, just selling it pretty good. And I'm like, and of course, the place we were staying, it was at a tackle shop. And he's like, oh, they have it right there. You should just go grab a few. And I went to, but they were sold out. They're very popular.
Nice.
So I was like, wow, that's wild, man. I think that the whole idea of like utilizing guides to promote products is definitely something that still is a strong. So because there's a number of guides that are part of the Reaction Tackle team, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's guides all over the country and for different species. Like, for example, with my involvement in my role, I want to get in the field as much as possible, not just for exposure and connecting with pro staff, but also because it is a great time to get out there and fish.
For sure it is.
So in a few weeks, I'm going to northern Wisconsin up to Kewanee, and I'm going out with one of our staffers, and he is going to go trolling out into Lake Michigan for lake trout. So that's unlike something I've ever done. And I can't wait to learn about his technique, his procedures, everything he goes through, like the lead core he uses with us, why he likes it, what other products he might be interested in seeing brought to the market and why, and just really picking his brain. So we've got staffers all over the place. Yeah. And, we've got it's been 4 weeks. The team on Facebook continues to, we continue to trickle people into there and consolidate them. But really it's creating a closer knit, it's a team. We're a team, right? Even though you're not employed by Reaction Tackle, like I like to look at it that way and refer to you guys as a team. Because like you said, there's a bunch of Massachusetts you guys could get together and do some team fishing. Yeah,
I would love to. In fact, I'm going to be reaching out to them specifically. I think sometime when you get into New England, I think we got to get you out on a pedal kayak, dude.
Yeah.
You got to see what that is all about. I think it'll be amazing. I think that, to me, that is really my favorite style of fishing. It really is.
It looks like a lot of fun. I watch this YouTuber, ND Yak Angler.
He's great.
Out of Nebraska, I believe. And he is the most calm, peaceful, serenity type of fishing you'll ever see. And I'm so jealous of his. I think he's got a Hobie set up.
He's got a couple of different kayaks. And he is, I say it all the time, he's like the Bob Ross of anglers. He really is.
Bob Ross of anglers.
He is.
That's
he's perfect. Just, happy little trees and giant pike and massive river smallmouth. I mean, he just crushes it. I'd love to have him on the show at some point. But it is pretty freaking awesome. Let's talk about like when you go out on the water. What are some of your confidence baits? Like when you need to get bit, what are you picking that's going to get it done?
I have one confidence bait, and it's the bait I've always used, and that I'm confident is wacky rigging.
Yeah,
wacky rigging, man. That's really my tried and true methodology, and I'm not sure why it works out for me. I must just have practiced enough with it, and I have the right twitch down or something.
Yep.
But I don't think I've been skunked in the I got skunked the last time I was out, but I was also working and shooting content, right? So
yeah, it's a different animal.
Fish for 30 minutes and then I have to shoot 2 hours of content, but I haven't been skunked in I don't know how long, and that was because of that wacky rig. But every time I try a new bait, man, it's I feel like I'm wasting time. I just really feel like I'm like, I spend 45 minutes throwing a new bait, trying to see if it'll catch anything, and then I go back. I just default back to the wacky worm because I know it's going to deliver a fish.
Yeah. When you're rigging your wackies, are you using a weighted wacky hook, or are you going weightless typically?
So in the past, I would do just like a split shot weight right on the top of the hook, right by the line. Oh, yeah. But I was seeing it was fraying the line too much.
Oh yeah.
back and forth and just the friction of it. So I've been just using a weighted jig head hook now. It's a wacky rig jig head hook. Not always though. Sometimes I'll go weightless, depending on the depth and some other factors. But the consistent thing is that little double twitch. I'll let it sink depending on the weight for a couple seconds, and then a little double twitch, let it sink back down, double twitch, and then bada bing, bada boom. Typically delivers.
Very nice. And it's funny to tie this into reaction tackle. So like if you're, and there's no shortage of anglers out there that are like, yeah, I'll wacky rig. If I need to get a bite, I'm going to wacky rig a 5-inch Senko. That's what I'm going to do. That list is a mile long. What's great about reaction tackle is you can go and select your hooks according to what you like. So I'm looking at the reaction tackle wacky Nico hooks. Super sharp hooks. These are great. They've got a great shape to them. You get them in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different sizes. You can get a standard hook. You can get a wire weed guard, right, which has that sort of bent. It's almost like a little paper clip that kind of flips underneath. So if you're fishing around grass, you want a more weedless presentation, something like that, you can utilize this 100%. Or if you're like, I don't like the wire weed guards, they make it with the fiber weed guard, which has that small like acrylic or plastic weed guard on either side, the 2-prong. And the nice thing is that you have options, but you go to the weighted side of it where you're throwing a weighted wacky hook and you've got the same kind of options. You can choose the weightless. So the beauty of reaction is that whatever your preference is, more than likely, if you just take a look at the options available, they've got what's going to fit your needs. And that's huge. Do
you use a weighted hook when it comes to wacky rigging, or what are you seeing on the market? Are most people weighting them or just doing weightless? So
here's what's funny about me. When I fish Senkos, I usually don't wacky rig. I will only like wacky rig typically if it's like they're not biting at the standard way I throw it. I fish ponds and lakes that have typically locally a shitload of grass, like ridiculous amounts of grass. So when I'm throwing a stick bait, it's generally going to be a weightless Texas rig. And this way, because I can keep it super, weedless for the most part, it still gets a little bit of flutter on the way down as it sinks, but I can also use it almost like a fluke or a soft plastic jerk bait and pull it through grass much easier. And it gets chomped. I have thrown wackies previously. I usually go weightless for the most part, but I would throw even a split shot sinker on there or a weighted hook if I was fishing it in really deep water. So if I'm in 25, 30 feet of water or something like that, and I want to, and I know that it's got to get down in further into the column, that's where I'll probably throw something like that. Or I would throw a Nico,
Yeah.
I forgot the Nico, the nail weights, the tungsten nail weights, the reaction tackles. Put those on my laundry list of products I use all the time too. I love those things.
Yeah, I had no idea about nail weights, man. I just found out about these nail weights that
Yep.
That it's such an interesting way to just stick that inside of a stick bait, and the action of that bait changes so tremendously.
Oh yeah,
does such a different presentation, and I didn't know about Nico rigging either, so I'm having a really great time learning about all these things, and I hope your listeners are continuing to learn, and I feel like we're in similar boats.
Oh yeah,
so a lot of your listeners are just figuring things out as they get out and experience them.
We definitely have a wide array of listeners, especially in our more exclusive community, the jig heads. We have tournament anglers that are very seasoned and been doing this for a long time. We have folks that have just fished their entire lives, but we've also got folks that don't even fish, have never fished, and will listen to the show. And they find it entertaining, and maybe one day they're going to go for it, but they're going to know a couple of things, probably just through osmosis of picking up some details here and there, there's a lot of grass there. Oh, maybe I should rig this way instead, or these are whatever conditions. I'm going to fish this. I'm going to so who knows? Maybe if it's your first time, you're taking this information and running with it, but. Yeah,
absolutely. And what's fascinating about the fishing community, it's two-sided, right? A lot of people don't want to talk about what they're using, about what they're experiencing, what lakes they're fishing, all these different aspects. But then you've got this super, not to say the other side isn't, but this super warm, cuddly, telling you as much as you want to know and giving away some of their products for other people to use. You know how many times I've seen on a dock a kid fishing, and then another angler came up and he said, what do you use? And chatting him up quick. And then he said, here, try this. And he gave him a full setup of, some hooks, some baits.
Yeah.
And then that kid was fishing with it. Can you imagine what that did to that kid?
Oh, absolutely.
He went home and he talked to his parents, and, I love that kind of stuff, and I love that aspect of the fishing community. And I think that's really where my job, I like to focus on that grassroots, conversational, kind of homegrown, this Wisconsin hospitality kind of look and feel.
Tell your folks I says hi,
talk about it.
Yeah.
Watch out for deer.
Exactly. I love it, man.
I got to get together with Charlie Barons. I think that would be such a fun thing to do.
I have both of those guys. They have you've listened to the Bellied Up podcast, their podcast, right?
Oh yeah.
It's so hilarious. Good. It's hilarious. But I feel like those two guys, and specifically the three hosts of Jigs and Bigs, myself, Sean, and Joe, we're like the New England version of those guys, and I feel like a collaboration needs to happen. You know what I mean?
I would love to see that and hear that. I think that would be a phenomenal idea. Just a group of guys, just these, salt of the earth, just both parties hilarious. I think that would be an absolute
extreme regionalisms coming together and what yeah, I just think it would be absolutely
and some
fantastic.
Sort of, New England versus Wisconsin, have like a little game that says what's better, that would be hilarious.
That's a good idea.
You do ice fishing up there. Like we've got different things we do ice fishing here. I'm still learning so much about the ice fishing world.
Oh yeah.
But that would be a lot of fun to see that.
Ice fishing is for some folks up here, it's an absolute way of life. Like they're sitting in their houses right now, just waiting for that first frost. So they're like, okay, we're gonna get ice. It's coming. Then you have the other folks that are like myself that are like, yeah, it's not so much ice fishing as much as it is ice drinking. It's like a tailgate party on the water, on the hard water. You might catch some fish, but you're definitely going to catch a buzz and eat some processed meats in the interim. I'm game for all of it. And then we've got some folks up here that they will not get on the ice. They just won't do it. It might be the cold or exactly. There's just some folks that do it. So it's crazy. There is a wide array of everybody everywhere you go. But yeah, there are folks who get crazy.
I feel like people who ice fish are oftentimes way more passionate than even summertime fishermen. They've just got this niche that they can, the waters freeze for, middle of January, and then they unfreeze pretty quick. Like the season's real short.
They got to make the most of it.
They're just itching. They're just chomping at the bit to get out, and then they get their ice shanties. They get out a case of Miller Lite, and they just go to town, man. They're a bunch of lunatics, and I love it.
Oh, yeah. I would love to do that type of ice fishing further north where, like you can drive out, and rent an ice house and just stay out there and fish for like 3 days. I would love to do my ultimate goal to do that is to record a full podcast, guests and everybody live right in one of those ice shanties with people catching fish in the moment. Like, oh, we got a fish on. Let's push pause. Come back. Like, oh, it was a really good crappie or such and such, Oh, I would.
Yeah, that's funny you said that because I came up with this, where I'm pushing TikTok hard. I'm pushing everything hard, just being out and about, doing as much as I can.
Yep.
And TikTok, when it comes to live streaming, you can co-stream live with people and basically interview them if you want on TikTok.
Oh yeah.
And so I plan on doing that. I'm going to go out, just take a simple worm setup and go out there and just fish and have co-streamers with me and kind of interview them. They can chat with me, and then
that's awesome.
Catching fish, have like a 1v1, who's catching the most fish, reaction tackle, or this guy or girl. I think that could be fun.
I think someday, eventually Jigs and Bigs is going to grow into a platform that's going to include video, and the format for that will be different than the format for the podcast. And there is a little bit of a plan there, But part of what we want to do is incorporate utilizing a large boat platform to go out with a guest and actually record the content with like just one single 360 cam just to get everything, but capture all that audio and make it a part of the show. We are actually fishing live. And, you know, I mean, that might mean that it's going to be a pontoon boat so that we can, you know, realistically set up a studio in there and not have it be a situation, you know? So
yeah,
we'll see what happens. Who knows?
The beautiful thing about content creation is you can have 10 million ideas and you want to bring them all to life. It's just like when you go home and you got projects, right? You got 10,000 projects, but you never have a shortage. You can always come up with new projects to do.
For sure.
And it's kind of cherry picking and choosing, but the most important thing is just enjoying it.
Oh, I agree.
If you enjoy the process, it's not even about the end product. It's just enjoy the process and you don't want to get burned out. you know,
it's funny too. Like you just reminded me of something. I was talking with, I forget who it was I was actually talking with about, but we're talking about like, you know how you always hear a story about somebody losing a fish. I think it was actually the Dark Horse guys. I think it was the guys from Dark Horse Tackle. We were talking about how, you know, you might lose an absolute giant. And yeah, it sucks in that moment and you're frustrated over it and everything else. But you still have this story. Like you might not have caught the fish, but you still have the experience of everything that went down. You know, I had what could have been my first pike break off right at the boat looking at it. I had the net in the water and he just swam right off. Jig came out of his mouth. He turned around, the line went slack, boom, lost the jig and he took off. But I've got that engagement with that pike where I'm like, holy crap, I can't believe it. I had an absolute tank, could have been a new PB largemouth that had hit my swim jig, like really defined, like taking the rod out of your hand, like hit it that hard. And he got him up to the boat and he went broadside. I saw what I was dealing with and he broke me off because I didn't retie. So that's a lesson that like I've taken and I've you know made sure to kind of instill that. So when I was out fishing with finesse jigs earlier this week, I was constantly checking my line to make sure if I had to retied a couple of times just to be safe. And it's a good habit, but like that story, I've always got it. Win or lose, like you've still got that experience, and there's value there, even if it's just conversational. But ultimately, if you learn from it, that's the important thing. I think I mentioned this when we talked on a phone last week that I had a couple of questions that were oddball kind of questions that come from like left field. But so let's say you and I go to fish your home area, the what you would consider in the country as like your home lakes, something like that. We go out, we fish, we have an amazing day, or maybe it's terrible. What is the local mom and pop, like the Greasy Spoon that we're going to go to either, you know, celebrate with a great meal or drown our sorrows?
Great question. We're kind of known for Sobelman's, to be honest with you. Sobelman's is this, you know, I wouldn't necessarily say it's a hole in the wall, but we've only got a few locations. You know, it's nothing but bar food, very greasy. They've got this famous Bloody Mary that you can get a full roasted rotisserie chicken on top.
Oh,
or you can get this big double cheeseburger and fully loaded, this big old beast of a Bloody Mary that's, I think it's like $35 or something, $40 because it's this big, it's like it's this assortment of beautifully, you know, Wisconsin greased up, deep fried food.
Oh, and, yes.
You know, we've got that one sticks out to my mind, but it's, you know, being in Wisconsin and the Friday fish fry, you know, the Friday fish fry is so important to the culture of Wisconsin. You can find a spot on every single corner that makes a really good fish fry.
Yep.
And I've got this, speaking of ideas, you know, I got this idea to every Friday, maybe I should go film a new spot. You know, let's go do a quick Friday fish fry review.
It's not a bad idea.
Showcase some of these, you know, 1-2 minute little puncher.
Yep.
You know, kind of Barstool Sports style.
Exactly.
Or you do a little pizza review, go outside, bada bing, bada boom. But yeah, I'd call out Sobelman's. I'd give them a big shout out. Yeah, they're an epitome to southeastern Wisconsin specifically. Yeah,
no kidding. All right, good to know. And I mean, you know, greasy bar food and Bloody Marys and stuff. That is my language. I'm definitely a guy who likes to live the good life. So the good and very unhealthy life.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man.
No, same.
Now, as far as like you know, I mean, you've done a little bit of traveling. Have you traveled at all specifically for fishing? I guess maybe that trip to Kentucky could qualify.
It could qualify. I would say I was in the Dominican Republic 5 or 6 years ago, and a big part of that trip was to go out with my brother-in-law to go out deep sea fishing for mahi-mahi.
Oh, there you go.
So although we didn't go there specifically for that, that was something in my mind that I was like, you know, I am going on this vacation and we're going to do some deep sea fishing. So it was a huge part of that conversation.
Yeah.
And something very, very wild happened to me on that trip that was super duper scary.
Oh, really?
I'd never been deep sea fishing before, and we went out and it was just me and my brother-in-law, and he's much younger than me. I'm 30 and he is 24 now.
All right.
But it was years ago. So that age difference seemed more, you know, impressionable.
Oh yeah.
So we're out there on the water, you know, we're trolling, we got the baits out, and, the waves were crashing. It was just a real choppy day. I don't know how far we were out, maybe a mile or so, half mile. I'm not 100% sure, but there was the upper deck. You could go up there and just have a better view, and it was kind of enclosed a little bit. And then there was a lower deck. And so I was going from one deck to the other, and the waves hit us, and I went flying forward as I was reaching for the ladder to go up the stairs.
Oh yeah.
And I absolutely obliterated my right hand. Like I broke 3 fingers, dislocated my pinky, broke my wrist, and dislocated my wrist.
Holy shit.
It was bad. And the Dominican Republic that's a third world country, man. So my immediate mind is like, healthcare, where are we going? How the hell are we going to get out of this place?
Yeah.
And luckily it was one of our last days on the trip. We end up with the fishing trip's over at that point.
Of course.
There's nothing you can do out there. I'm just trying to stabilize my whole hand and wrist, all that. I'm making calls at that point. I'm trying to get service to call into my mother-in-law, to my wife.
Yep.
And then I've got my brother-in-law on the boat with me. So we get back into shore. We cruise in as fast as we can to a local hospital there. And it's getting dark at that point. So I'm sitting in the waiting group with everybody. I'm crying like a baby who just got a popsicle taken from him. And so a doctor rolls in. He's got acid wash jeans and a white t-shirt. I see him change into his, you know, he puts on a scrub top.
Yep.
And then he's in the hallway. We're in the hallway. And so he's like, okay, we need to get an x-ray. We need to do an x-ray. And I'm like, okay, let's do it. Let's go. So we take an x-ray. He's like, yeah, you've got all these broken bones, dislocations. Your hand is messed up. And he's like, we need to set this now. We need to set your hand.
Oh my God.
And so what he did was he's holding my right hand with both of his hands just cupped, and he takes both of his thumbs and he pushes down, and you hear the bones snapping into place. Wow. That was so scary.
Oh, I believe it.
So
fuck.
So looking back on this story now and having to go through that process of getting back to the States, going to a orthopedic surgeon, hand surgeon, having surgeries done, having multiple pins put in my hand, having it stabilized for 6 weeks, and going through that process. Still to this day, the one thing that sticks out to me is my doctor here in the States says that doctor in the Dominican did one of the best jobs setting this big of a mess of a hand that I've ever seen.
Really?
So shout out, everything's relative. He did a phenomenal job. And I reached out to that doctor back in the Dominican and just sent him a big long letter and thanked him. But
wow.
But we didn't get any fish.
That's the real fail of it all. I feel like it happens.
Which looking back on it, like, it is disappointing, you know?
For sure, absolutely. But
and
like
still
I said,
to this day, man, you can see all the pins, you can see all the scars on my hand. You can, you know, but I have full mobility. Everything's great.
That's what matters. You know,
if I do too many push-ups, which I don't work out that often, I do a little bit of, cardio every now and again. I'm training for a marathon, but if I do too many push-ups, I'll feel that in my wrist a little bit. It gets a little stiff, and during thunderstorms too. But
yeah, that'll for sure happen. That is wild.
Which I had that doubt. I was so skeptical, older people and their joints, and I'm like, what is going on with you? That must just be a youth
It's got to be in your head.
I get it.
No, it makes sense. Damn. And you may not have caught any fish, but I think that the important thing is that you've got the memories, and that I think that's what we all need. I just felt like that was a perfect timing right there. You got the memories. You didn't
Bobby,
catch
you
any
cut
fish.
it. Bobby, you
I
cut
know.
out.
I know I did. I filled the best I could. It worked out well. It's fine. It's fine. But yeah, that's wild, man. So I feel like this is definitely a story we would have heard at the very end of this segment, because I normally ask about like the moment you're most proud of fishing, followed by the moment where it all went to shit. I don't think it can go any more to shit than that deep sea trip for Mahi Mahi.
Bad. It was bad news bears.
Yeah.
It was worst case scenario.
That is
I mean,
rough.
I didn't die. It's not worst case scenario.
Yeah, it could have been. It could have gone worse, but I thought actually when you started talking about it, I thought you were going to say you were coming up the ladder and the boat rocked and you went overboard. I was like, oh Jesus, yeah, that is scary. So I guess that could definitely be worse. Let's talk about like bucket list spots that you would love to fish. Like where are some lakes that you were just like, yep, I've heard, the legend of such and such place. I've got this on my agenda.
Yeah. A few different spots, and I guess they all kind of YouTube, watching my exposure to, different fishermen. John B, I think would be really fun to go down there and fish a nice long river in Texas. When it comes to, some of the southern states, I think Florida would be, I've been to Florida quite a few times, probably 20 times.
Yep.
None of which were designated fishing trips. So I would really love to go down there and fish Florida's both coastlines. I actually got an invitation to come down from one of our team members to go down to near Pensacola and do some shoreline fishing for sharks. And I think that would be, talking about my experience, first time going out catfishing and being able to tame that small catfish. Can you imagine having a shark on your line and just having it shake its head and being able to tame that beast? I think that's definitely on the bucket list.
Oh, absolutely.
One of the other staffers, which I'm having so much fun, Bobby. I'm having so much fun with chatting with all you staffers.
That's awesome.
He wants me to come out and do some catfish noodling.
Oh my God.
I don't know if I can get myself to do that. It's on my list. 100% it's on my list. But I think I have a 9, almost 10-month-old daughter, and she is the love of my life.
Yep.
She is amazing, and she is just a little spitfire. She's just like her dad. But maybe in a year or two, go out and do some noodling just in case that catfish takes me under. But I would say, catfishing and shark fishing, and then getting out to the Pacific Northwest. I would say going out there. I've been to Seattle once, and absolutely beautiful. So I think that would be great to make that a combination fishing trip and do some sort of, hiking and getting outdoors. I know you're into, the overlanding. I've actually got a Toyota Tacoma,
there you go.
2021, with a soft topper on the back and a Rhino rack set up. I'm trying to brand it as the reaction taco.
That is freaking brilliant.
We'll see if Chad, the owner, will give me some funds to maybe wrap the bad boy in reaction tackle stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think that'd be cool. And then one more thing is probably going out to Montana or Wyoming and doing some sort of a rafting trip. I saw Steven Ranella. He lives in Montana and he does obviously a large content producer. And I think that would be fun to do. Go fishing for some like whitefish or some trout from some sort of a raft. Yeah, those things are very high on the bucket list. But I could tell you about probably 25 more different specific trips that I would want to do.
For sure. What's your PB? Your PB bass?
Oh, sorry, Bobby. The audio is kind of cutting out.
All right. Do me a favor, Cody, if you could. Just kill your camera. I'm wondering if we can save a little bit of bandwidth that way. That's why I killed mine.
Yeah.
There you go. We'll see how that goes. So okay. What's your personal best largemouth?
Largemouth, and like I said, sticking with wacky rigging and not really exploring any of those baits that really attract those. Not to take anything away from wacky rigging, but I rarely see any big lunkers. Big old pigs caught on wacky rigs. My PB is like 2 pounds.
All right. Hey, you know what?
So
though?
If anybody wants
you got to
have me out,
That's exactly it. You got a baseline. And I've had big fish hit Senkos before. Like big fish hit Senkos. And like you don't have to throw a specific bait to catch giants. Like sometimes it's just it's all conditions. You know, what do they want to eat at that time? What are they keyed in on? What are they focusing on? Are they looking for that big bite, or or are they more looking for like just that's something that's just an opportunity to grab a small morsel here or there? You know, or are they chasing?
Yeah.
Like, there's so much to it that, like, you know, I don't like to think of like, oh yeah, this is a small fish bait, because like I've caught big fish on Ned rigs before. Like, it's
well, I also too like when it comes to fishing, some people want to go out and catch the biggest fish they can. They'll sacrifice quantity for that large quality.
I agree.
I really enjoy catching 2, 3, 4, 5 1-pounders.
Yeah.
You know, I really, really enjoy that style. My style is move as quickly and cover as much water as possible and just keep on moving. I like that action of it.
Yep.
And you know, I've landed some nice sized fish, but I would say that slight adrenaline rush.
Yep.
I get an adrenaline every single time I catch a fish. Is that the same with you?
It really is. Like, it doesn't matter what kind of fish it is. Like, sometimes the reaction, and what I like to say is, how long does that rush last? So if I catch a bunch of dinks, I'm like, okay, we're catching them. This is great. Awesome. I get over that pretty quick. When I broke my PB, it was days that stayed with me. It was days. And it was ridiculous. And, you know, and that's part of the reason why I like the content side of this so much, is because I'm able to document the stuff as it happens. And so this week I did a video where I previously put out some polls on the Jigs and Bigs Instagram, allowing people to kind of choose my own adventure in a way. And they just voted on the types of water, if I was going to bank fish or if I was going to kayak fish, what types of baits was I going to throw? Was I going to throw large baits, or was I going to focus strictly finesse? What was the plan? And I had a blast with it. You know, it was a whole lot of fun. But what's cool is that I've created, and I think I've finally got a little bit of a system where I can create this content where folks can digest it and do so well in that short form video platform like Instagram Reels and on TikTok. I think I really kind of got familiar with doing that when I dipped my toe in when I went to Chickamauga, but when I went to Moosehead, I think I created a really, really cool little video series for that. So for me, like, you know, the rush of looking back, like, I still watch that full 15-minute video from the Moosehead trip. And I'm like, what an amazing time. The fishing was lackluster. Like, I caught a couple of smallmouth and an okay size Laker, and that was it. But like the experience, unbelievable.
I did my whole trip to Seattle. I just did it vlog style. It's a 45-minute video. I had it uploaded to YouTube, and I watch it maybe once every 6 months to remind myself of different restaurants we went to, you know, what we were feeling. You know, me and my wife just went, and what was that feeling like when we hiked Mount Rainier? You know, it was miserable, but looking back and I can laugh at my misery and see what it was like, how much I was sweating, getting up to the snow caps. Like, it's unlike anything else. It's just like having your brain memories uploaded, and you can watch it in even more detail. But it's, you know, there's something to the point of, like, some people say, well, you're not living in the moment, but you can reach a point with videoing yourself and recording moments where it feels natural and you're not doing anything. If you're authentic, that's any different than you would be if you're not videoing.
Yes, exactly. I agree 100%. Like, people say this all the time, like it's something new. You know, there was a time where folks would invite all of their friends over to their house to watch a freaking slideshow of a vacation or something or whatever. And they would be like, oh, and this is, that's where we were with this. Like, human memory is fallible, you know, and we talk about this on the show all the time. And actually, Cody, this might be good information for you to take. The most important thing for any angler is to log all of their catches, log their experiences, so that they can go back and look at that data and learn and grow from it, you know, because the human memory is so prone to forgetting details or confusing like minutia from, you know, a happening or an event, or, you know, sometimes like you leave a trip and you have all these, like, you know, images in your mind that over time are going to get like fuzzy around the edges. Like you might not necessarily remember all the details. Whereas if you can capture not every waking moment, but document some of that stuff, grab a picture of the visuals, grab, a video reaction of, somebody, you cook a dish and somebody tries your, breakfast. They're like, holy shit, this is amazing. I've never tried Scrapple before, or whatever. It's just, it's cool. And you have that to then look back on as a reference. So I'm with you. I'm kind of in the middle. Like there's living in the moment, but then there's also like not being responsible and documenting some stuff. So that way you at least truly remember what actually went down. So Cody, it sounds to me like, you've had some experiences on the water. And from that story about the Dominican Republic, it sounds like some were pretty hairy. So I'm expecting half of this question is not going to be, I'm assuming that half of this question is going to be that story there, but I could be surprised. Who knows? What I want from you is I want basically 2 stories here. I'm looking for, like if you're at a wedding or an event or something like that, and you meet somebody at the bar and they're just like, oh yeah, hey, I heard you like to fish. Like, what's that story that you're going to share with them as the go-to? Oh, hey, this happened one time. Maybe it's, maybe it is your PB. Maybe it's like just something where everything went to hell and you were able to like put the pieces back together. Just whatever that moment is that you're most proud of. And then the follow-up to that is the entire opposite. The story that's the biggest of them all.
Yeah. So bump into someone at the bar. It's a wedding. I'm having a few cocktails, loosen up. So I love to reference that Dominican Republic story. I think it's unique, man. It's something that a lot of people haven't gone through.
Oh yeah.
When it comes to a lot of the things I reference, it's not necessarily catching fish. It's more the journey that I've gone through. And what I talk about a lot is super early morning fishing, chances that I get to go out, get up at 3 a.m., way before the sun rises, get the coffee on, get it all brewed up in the process of, my equipment and what I'm going through. And then I like to go out solo fishing.
Yep.
I'm a very extroverted person, and my kind of like reboot, kind of recharge the batteries is doing things kind of solo. So when it comes to those quiet mornings, it's very serene, it's still dark out, and driving to a lake where the sun is just starting to peak up and going through that process of unhooking your boat or unloading your kayak.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's really when it comes down to fishing and not catching fish, like that whole process, the equipment. So many people talk about it. What do you have? What are you using?
Mm-hmm.
Like how do you go about it? Like all those conversations are really what kind of makes me tick. And then, I go out and I catch, a handful of dinks, and then I'm full, my cup is full, I've got, I'm fully satisfied. And, I think that's why I really love the sport of fishing too, is there's so many variables that go into it.
Yeah, for sure.
We chat about golf a little bit. It's just like that. One day I'm just in love with the sport, and then the next day I'm ready to quit the sport.
Yep.
It's the sport that everyone loves to hate.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. No, I agree with that. And it's funny too, like there is something very zen about the preparation and getting ready for a fishing trip. I'm the same way. I usually like the day before, I like to go and like, I'm a planner. I'm happiest when I at least kind of know what I'm getting into. And that's really it. Like I do that in my work too. When I work for various events, I will take a look. I'll be planning for Saturday on the Friday the week before. You know what I mean? Like I'll start like, okay, so where am I going to fish? What's happening? Let's look at the weather. Okay, cool. This is what it's looking at right now. And I'll be checking the weather throughout the week, to get up to date with what's going on. I'll then select, the body of water that I want to go to. What is it that I'm looking for? If I'm in, one of these multi-species tournaments, that's what I'm paying attention to is that species I'm targeting in that body of water. But if it's not, if it's like, I'll go back a couple of years. If it's one of those deals where I'm just going out for that very first day, there's something very like Zen-like about it. Like the preparation, especially that morning, that early morning, everything's still, everything's quiet. I had this last Saturday, I had gone out and I had gotten up at 3 a.m. and I, went downstairs and I got my gear together and I have this sort of ritual. I don't eat or drink coffee before I go fishing most times.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I don't.
That is unacceptable.
I don't eat or well, the reason is that I will, but I just don't like to shit in the woods. And, and like I will 100% if need be. I mean, shit, that's what I had to do when I went up to Moosehead. But if I can avoid it, I will. So usually my like process first thing in the morning, get up, immediately go downstairs, take out the dogs, come back in, and I will fix myself a 32-ounce like Nalgene of ice cold water, and I'll just drink it. I usually will go stand outside. I got this last tip from another podcast. I'll go stand outside and I'll drink this water to kind of like wake up all your organs and get like your body just ready. And then I'll go have my daily constitutional and then basically hit the road. This is why, for me, like usually by the time I'm done fishing for the day, and some days it'll be, if I'm fishing at dawn, I might not be done until 2 or 3 in the afternoon. And by that point, I am ravenous. So that question about like the local greasy spoon that's recommended, I want to have that in the plan too.
Oh yeah,
for sure,
100%.
That's
when I'm out, I get gun shy. My body knows I can't multitask, so I think my body knows, hey, we're fishing. That's all that matters right now.
I wish.
And I just get gun shy, and nothing happens to me until I get back, and that's totally good with me, man. Like, my caffeine addiction has had some very deep roots. Yeah, I'm actually doing way better with it. When I was at Milwaukee Tool, man, I was drinking. It's probably bad to say, I was drinking like nine servings, man. I was doing probably close to 1,000 milligrams of caffeine, but now I'm back to a normal amount. I got my Starbucks though for the show.
Oh, you need
a little celebration to join the Jigs and Bigs. Yeah,
for sure. Yeah, it's fair enough. And I mean, don't get me wrong. Like I love coffee. I do. I really, really do. But it's not even so much for me about caffeine addiction. It's like I would choose to drink coffee. Like I would almost rather have a really good coffee than have a beer. Tell you the truth. Like I'm just like, I mean, don't get me wrong. Like I love sampling all kinds of different, cocktails and beers and stuff, especially. But I'm like, you're talking my language when you're talking coffee, So that's just sort of my thing. And what's funny was when I was in Chickamauga, like my buddy Paul and I have grown to be very different anglers. We were just. It was, and I say that like we've grown to be very different anglers, but somehow when we fish together, it's an absolute shit show. All the time. Have the
energy that you feed off each other. Yeah.
I don't know what it is. Like we were out with Caleb, our guide, Caleb Bell, and I was like, dude, I apologize that you're out with these two goddamn jabronis right now. I'm like, this is so bad. And he looks at me, he's like, jabronis? He's like, yeah. I've never heard that. What is that? And I was like, I neglected to remember the fact. I was like, dude, The Rock, the jabronis. You know what I mean?
The jabronis, yeah. Yesterday, I was listening to your podcast you dropped it earlier in the week, but I don't know when you recorded it. You started the show by saying the word ass hattery. And I don't think I've ever laughed to myself in a car in my truck before. And that's you awesome. Got me, man. That struck the funny bone. That was the episode you had Becca Likes to Fish.
Yeah. Fishing with Becca. She's great.
She's a rock star, man. What's funny is a lot of the questions you asked her, I had the same exact answers as her. And she was talking about Xander Budnick, Joe Robinette, all those guys with the canoeing. I was like, man, that was a phenomenal. Shout out to you for the show. Everybody who's listening,
appreciate that, man.
Rock and roll. You've got a great show, and it's a lot of fun. And I laugh when I'm listening, man. You're very funny.
I appreciate that, dude. I really do. That's really all I ever really wanted, was to create something in the fishing circle where it was entertaining and there was the ability to bring, because I came to this as a novice angler, and I feel like I'm a little bit less of a novice angler now, but I still try to approach everything with that same sort of curiosity, and I love to try to pull that out of my guests, whether it's like someone like you that's working with a brand that I'm crazy about, or it's somebody who's, you know, maybe fishing a technique or a different body of, you know, a different type of water than I'm normally fishing. Anything that I can learn and share with everybody, I feel like that's just a win for everybody. But the key is the entertainment, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And me with Reaction Tackle, you know, and with my level of learning with the fishing industry as a whole, I think it's absolutely perfect. The fit is perfect because I don't know what I don't know yet. So I'm a naturally curious person just like you, and I'm going out and just talking about everything and understanding it. And with that comes feedback from everybody. And we're like, oh, you guys should do this. Yo, that's cool. You have this, but maybe you should come out with this. And then, back and forth little banter. It's a lot of fun. And I don't see that too much. And it surprises me. Like, that's a part of the whole process of understanding what the market needs and what people are crazy about and what it needs, you know, it's just, again, I'm having so much fun with all of this, and I hope your people who are all listening, like, just maintain that curiosity and continue to get out there and have a good time.
No, I agree. I think that's name of the game. You got to enjoy it. You got to, you know, make the most of it. Now, what about that other story, like the absolute epic fail? I would have assumed that it would be the Dominican Republic, but maybe, you know, the thing is about this question is that this is the most challenging one because folks often have a laundry list of.
I've got quite a few. Oh, sorry.
It's hard to pick. So go ahead, go think about what what you would select.
Yeah, so let's stick to the States because the Dominican Republic story is so far outside of the scope of like a realistic fail. Like how many times does that happen to somebody, you know?
That's true.
So just being in the States, countless times I've run out of battery and gas in my boat.
Oh.
So I've been stuck in stranded places. You wouldn't believe the level of safety protocols I have in place now when it comes to not being stranded in places.
It's smart.
But I have a buddy who lives in Phoenix, Arizona now. He was kind of like my go-to adventure buddy. We'd go northern Wisconsin to, you know, Mount Bohemia and do 3-4 day snowboarding trips where you'd get a foot of snowfall a day up in the UP. And we'd go out hiking and do all these adventures. And so I had him, he was back in town, and I was like, let's get out fishing, man. Let's go to a local lake and let's catch some lunkers. And so he comes out, and we're fishing for 2-3 hours in the morning, bright and early, and not too many people out there, honestly, maybe 1 or 2 people. And it's a very windy morning. It's a very, very windy morning. And we run out of battery, and then I'm like, all right, man, we should just head back in. And then the motor shuts off, and I'm pumping the valve, and I'm trying to squeeze as much gas into this thing as possible. And we're half mile from the landing. So we're in a lake that's got a lot of cattails, a lot of tall grass. So it's like a maze in there. It's not like you can see across the lake and see who's on the lake. It's like you can see 20 to 30 yards in front of you, and then it's cattails. And like you're in the thick of it. So I'm immediately go to panic mode. I'm like, all right, who can we call to get out of here? What are we going to do? Trying to just troubleshoot the situation. And I'm like, all right, let's just call the the trap shooting place that is the landing that we dropped in.
Yep.
And so we call them. No one picks up. So I'm like, all right, I'll call my dad. I'll call him up. He doesn't answer. I'm like, do we call the cops?
Yeah. Like,
what do we do? Just wait? Do we just chill out here until someone comes? Like, I wasn't familiar with like what exactly 100% do. I'm like, do we shoot up a flare?
That's wild.
Like, what do you do? So I'm like, all right, we'll just keep fishing, I guess. But now we're pinned up against this body of cattails, and there's nothing. We're not catching fish. It's just this miserable situation. Some guy ends up finding us on the lake, cruises by. We yell at him. We have a whistle. We, get him over there. He hooks up, and he's like in this little John boat with a 15 little kicker on it in this muddy lake. And he's like, yeah, your boat's too big for me to tow by myself. You guys have to come up front. So I go up front into his boat. And my buddy from Arizona is just chilling in my boat as we just tugboat back to the shoreline, and he's laughing his ass off. He's like having the best time in the world, and I'm up front miserable, and this guy's like, I'm like, what the hell, man? I'm like apologetic. I'm like, can I give you some money, man? I appreciate you. He's just like, no. And kind of like the moral of the story is, he's like, no, man, you don't need to pay me. Just the next time you see someone in need, just pay it forward. Just do the same thing.
That's awesome. You need that, man. It's a big deal. That's wild.
Yeah.
So what is it now when you say like you've got like safety precautions in there? Because I'm a big believer in that. Like one is none. Wait, hold on. Yeah, one is none. Two is one is what I like to say. Ideally. So what I mean by that is like, okay, so if I've got a tool, right? Like I'll use this, like I always carry a Leatherman with me all the time, a multi-tool, just because I've got, things that I could utilize it for. I need knives and scissors and pliers and screwdrivers and, all types of random things like that. But I also know how we are as people. And like, it's one thing to say like, oh yeah, I've always got this on me. But there was one day, it was last Saturday. I was out carp fishing with my buddy. And we were out, and I was mixing up some carp bait. And I'm not going to give away any secrets, Todd Grubb. Don't worry about it. But I needed to open up 2 cans of corn. And I was like, all right, cool. And I, like, when I'm out camping, I use my Leatherman. I have a Leatherman Wave Plus that I use all the time. It's my go-to Leatherman. And I was like, oh, shit. Because I thought I had, because I'm wearing, like, it's summertime. I'm not wearing, like, jeans or anything that I'll, like, clip into my pocket or anything. I thought I had it in my console in my truck. And I didn't. It was at home on my dresser. So I was like, shit. I go, what am I going to do to open these cans? I'm like, okay, all right, let's think about this. Oh, wait. I had my backpack with me that I normally carry for work all the time. And in there, I have a small pouch. And this pouch is like random items should I find myself in a situation. Like, I'm not a tinfoil on the hat prepper or anything like that. But like, I keep like a couple of tools in there that I could use. I keep like a water filter. Fire starting equipment should I need it. You know what I mean? Things like that, stuff that I could use, and also just things that are really handy too. So I go in there, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. I have my old Leatherman Rev. So I was just like, I'm pretty sure this has a can opener on it. So I pop it open. Oh yeah, it's got a can opener on it. Pop those cans right open. We're good to go. Now, yeah, that's what I'm saying. 2 is 1. At least you've got a backup that's in the mix somewhere. So I was not stuck without any bait for these carp, which was a giant waste of all the groceries that I had purchased for making this bait because we didn't even get a tap. It was oh no. Yeah, it was not a fun outing. Drank a lot of beers, told a lot of stories, but man, it was something. It was definitely something.
You have to have those procedures in place. So, I mean, the big problem with me, man, was I had a busted gas gauge on my boat.
Oh, yeah.
So I got that fixed, and we got the gas issue figured out. I had one faulty battery, so I got that figured out. I'm not a tinfoil hat kind of guy either, but, UFOs do exist now, I guess. So
that's a thing. It is a thing. That was a
wild conspiracy theory at one point. I do have. I bought a $150 like really nice first aid kit that's got everything under the sun.
Yep.
It's in a really compact carrying case that has got Velcro, so I keep it in my truck, and then when I'm out on the boat, I just toss it in there. It's got everything you need. Everything from burn gels to tourniquets to pills to yada, yada, yada. So I keep that in there. I have a water straw as well, as well as some iodine tablets. And then I got fireproof matches. And then I've got a number of other things. I keep a raincoat in there. Right? I think that's always something good. And then I keep another pair of clothes just in case, God forbid, you get stuck overnight or something. You got to tidy up and get warm. And then when I go out, I typically, I don't typically bring food out, but maybe that's something I should do. But that's pretty extreme, to get stuck out on a lake in a metropolitan area. You're probably going to get scooped up before hunger becomes an issue.
Exactly. Although you'd be amazed. Like, there's important stuff that you should definitely have on hand. I always recommend, like, obviously bring more than enough water for you to drink, or like a life straw is definitely a good thing. But like if you're out fishing on a boat, on any kind of a boat, a kayak, a big bass boat, a deep V hull, like, whatever, a fishing ski, whatever it is that you're doing, if you're out on the water and you're having a good time, not paying attention to the details, drinking water is excellent, but it's useless if you don't put any kind of minerals in your body to absorb that, something salty. So, like, the idea of throwing, like, a packet of jerky in one of the consoles on your boat is not a bad idea. We had at the one of the pro staffs that I'm a part of, one of their anglers had he's a welder and he does welding like on rooftops and stuff. And this goes back a couple of years, and he got heat stroke. Because I mean, extreme heat situation. He's like, I don't get it. He's like, I was drinking water all day long. He's like, and it's great, but without putting something in your stomach to hold the water, at least temporarily, it's just going to go right through you. You're going to sweat it right out.
Absolutely. And you're seeing this right now with the heat waves across the states.
Oh yeah.
I saw someone died, and that's because they depleted their salt deposits so much. They were sweating so much, and they just drank a whole bunch of water that it actually causes swelling in your brain if you don't replace your salt.
Yeah.
And so some people, you can die from that. That's an extreme example, but I think something good too that I'm just thinking about now is I'm training for a marathon in October, and I've been using these goo gels. They're just they support carbohydrate replacement, and they have amino acids and sodium in them. That would be phenomenal to take out on the boat.
Yeah.
Leave in a little like Ziploc baggie, that is a dense vitamin, mineral kind of replacement there. That is a compact little package. Yeah. That, and also too is, I keep on hand some extra wires and, wire cutter. And then I have a portable soldering iron and some clip-on wire clips.
Really? Okay.
If anything happens with my electrical system or anything like that, I can do a quick fix, with the batteries or anything like that. So
that's smart.
That's another thing, because that battery situation freaked me out.
Oh yeah, you don't ever want to fool around with that. Like, having something as a backup is always a good idea. And I always wonder, about like folks that like you hear stories like, well, now there's the lithium batteries, which are I believe you can run them all the way empty versus a typical lead acid. I think that's one of the main features why people are so crazy about them. But like, you look at like some of the battery systems that folks use, and I've always wondered, I'm like, how does this actually function? Like, I know if I had to go and plug I have a 10 amp hour Nocqua battery that I run my Lowrance unit on, and I forget nonstop about recharging that. Like, it's not until it dies where I'm like, oh yeah, I got to recharge that. So now what I do is I actually keep the charger in my truck, and in my 4Runner, I've got a 110 outlet back there. And I can charge it on. If I'm doing a long drive, as long as I remember to take the battery out, I'll charge it on my way to the water, and then I'll charge it back up afterwards if need be. And eventually it tops right off. Yeah. But man, it is wild.
So with your 4Runner, are you doing a full build out with you can sleep in the back, right?
I do. So I do sleep in the back currently. The biggest issue that I have with my 4Runner as far as doing any kind of a build is twofold. First off, I'm a 300-pound human, and like and there was a company that was in Canada, and they basically made a hardware packet and some panels that you could go and buy like an IKEA bed frame, so that way you could set up a sleep system and have storage underneath and everything, but it was temporary. So this is my daily driver. And I have a business, so I've got to lug equipment back and forth and all kinds of stuff. So it doesn't really lend itself perfectly to being that like overland dream vehicle. So I needed something to go back and forth. And this company from Canada was just like, and I asked them, I was like, look, could I double up on some of the braces? I'm a big guy, I want to make sure I'm not going to have this and fall through it in the middle of the night. And he was like, I'm going to tell you something. He goes, in all honesty, he's like, yeah, he's like, you could go ahead and do this. He goes, but I just don't know if you would actually even be remotely comfortable sleeping in this bed with the small capsule space it'll create. And I was like, you know what? That's a really good idea. So I connected with a company called Deep Sleep, which is based in Arizona. And Deep Sleep makes a variety of these hybrid mattresses. Part of them is inflatable, but there is foam on the interior. And you can create a sleep system and just deflate the pads, and it's gone. It's perfect. And I love them. They're absolutely fantastic. And I would love to do a build, like especially with drawers. Like,
is that a heavy mattress with the memory foam on top, just to portability wise to get it in there? Is it pretty dense and heavy?
When it's deflated, so I have 2 of them, so it'll do my entire space. But you could do 1, and I like having 2, so I can have options. I can even stack them on one side if I really want to get super bougie with it. But I prefer to have the wide open space to be able to like stretch out. So each pad, when they are fully deflated and wrapped up in their stash bags, they're about the same size as a sleeping bag. And it's fairly light. It is fairly light.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Nice.
And it's and the plan going forward is I'm going to be purchasing a new trailer. But that's why when you mentioned your trailer situation, I have a trailer situation, and I'm going to be doing a big build, and I kind of want to create like, a kayak trailer that has the ability to haul an additional kayak or two up above. But I want to, obviously put my kayak is enormous, man. I call it a bass boat for one. And I'm going to try to set this up so this way I can just back up to a ramp and drop it instead of relying on my landing gear all the time. This way I can kind of give that a little bit of a break, because I've had to go and do some modifications on that to make that work well. So that's ultimately what the goal is there. But on this trailer, what I want to do is install toolboxes on the sides and even rooftop awnings on each side. So this way that will be like base camp. I can set that up, and all my camping gear will be built inside there, and I can just have my sleep system in the truck ready when I leave. Everything's all set.
Yeah.
It'll make setup and tear down so easy.
Yeah. Are you, there's a little bit of an awning. I was thinking about doing a collapsible awning on the side of my truck that then does a 270 around the backside, and then it wraps around just for I think it's like 6 or 7 feet. It extends out.
Yeah,
and
they're
have
like
that
bat
just
wings.
For multi-purpose, man. Tailgating's huge in Wisconsin.
Oh,
Going out to a Brewer game, Packer game, get out into the parking lot, fire up the grill with some brats, put the awning out. I think that'd be fun.
Oh, hell yeah.
You guys tailgate in Massachusetts?
Oh, we tailgate in Massachusetts, man. Hell yeah.
Yeah, I bet. It's not everywhere, though.
No, I'm not a sports guy, like, much at all. I'm really not. But I'll tell you what, if somebody's got tickets to, like, a Pats game, I'll go for the tailgate. Shit, if they don't have tickets to a Pats game, I'll drive them there just to tailgate and then drink in the parking lot. I don't give a shit. This is what I live for.
That's hilarious. I totally get it. A lot of people, you'll have people show up to a Brewer game. I think it's 3 hours ahead of time you can show up to tailgate before the game starts. And then I think people start showing up to the game in the 5th inning. They're just there to tailgate, and then they come in at the 5th inning.
It's insane.
It's a wild thing, man. It's very cool, man. Wisconsin's got these little things that you can't really pinpoint until you start having these conversations, and then you're like, oh yeah, we do have like kind of a unique state. It's kind of cool.
It is cool. And it's funny, man, Wisconsin is on my bucket list of places to fish. 100%. There's a number of content creators that are from Wisconsin. It's just a matter of carving out the time and going and doing it, because I'm looking forward to it. I'll tell you the truth, I'd really like to make a trip, like, and do like a 5 to 7 day run, maybe with a couple days on the side for travel back and forth. I'd love to do the Upper Peninsula.
Oh, that'd be a lot of fun. We'll start in southern Wisconsin. I've got a guest room. Swing by.
Yep.
Bring the family. You can hang out for a bit, a day or two.
Well, there we
Maybe
go.
we'll go tailgating, and then you start the trip there.
I love that idea.
And then head north. Yeah, the UP is a beautiful place, man. It's so pretty.
Oh yeah, everybody. There's a podcast that I have been listening to recently called Budget Overland, and the host Benji is, I think this fall they're actually going to go and do the UP. And he had a guest on recently who had just done it and was like, yeah, I want to, pick your brain a little bit about, what should I plan on? What's the situation and everything? And just listening back to that podcast, I'm like, yeah, this would be the mission right there. We'll go to Wisconsin, get some cheese curds, make it happen.
When you think of Wisconsin, cheese curds come to number one in your head? Yeah,
first time I ever had cheese curds proper was in Wisconsin.
Yeah, cheese curds are, a lot of people don't even know that that's a thing. If you travel down south and you mention cheese curds, I mean, you're in the land of like deep frying in the south too, and they've never heard of throwing cheese in there. You batter it up, throw some cheese curds. And you know what's crazy is the different types of batter you can use, and the different types of cheese. I think cheddar is the most common.
Yeah.
But when you deep fry it using different batters and different sizes, you can have a 2-hour long conversation just about cheese curds. It's
I believe it. Thing. I believe it. And they got to squeak. If they don't squeak, you're doing it wrong.
You're going to have the comment section is going to blow up about this guy, Cody from Reaction Tackle, and his cheese curds passion. And that's all it's going to be. Wait, so this Cody, he works for Reaction Tackle or he loves cheese curds?
It's a little bit of both. Why not both? Why the hell not both? I love it, Cody. This is absolutely awesome. Do me a favor, and if you know of like anything that's maybe coming down the pipe for Reaction Tackle that you want to, mention on here and kind of give folks a heads up or anything, or any information on how folks can reach you if they've got questions about Reaction Tackle. Shit, you guys can talk to me about Reaction Tackle if you have questions. I have been working with this stuff for years. I love it. But by all means, Cody, if you've got something, go ahead, promote yourself, promote Reaction a little bit.
Awesome, man. Yeah, if you guys want to reach out and just connect and say what's up or provide any feedback, you don't even have to be using our products. If you see another company doing something great, send us a DM, send me a DM on any of our socials. We got TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. Just hit me up, you guys. I'm the one responding to all those chats, and you'll see my face all over the place. Again, kind of being the face of the company. But hit me up if you have any feedback or you just want to chit chat. And in terms of new products, I mean, we are all ears, but I did have a conversation when it comes to that. I was picking Chad's brain last night about this.
Yep.
And we're exploring rods. Rods is something very seriously we're exploring, as well as hard plastics, as well as soft plastics. Trailers, we're exploring that. We've got a lot in the works. The company was launched on our moss green braided line and tungsten weights, and we've been nothing but expanding our offerings ever since. And again, I like to refer to us as affordable premium. Great value.
That's a great description.
Yeah, and I'm not sure I'm clear to even say that, but I that's how I feel about it. It's an affordable premium. So yeah, that's about it though, guys. We're trying to bring the best products, best value to you as possible, and your feedback is number one on our list. And just reach out, you guys. Thanks for listening.
Awesome, Cody. This is really, really great. I think that there's going to be good things in the future with the Jigs and Bigs and Reaction Tackle relationship. I have some stuff. Some stuff that I was looking at because I was looking at the website, getting an idea of what exactly it is that I'm using from Reaction Tackle, and I was floored. And I saw that backpack again. I think I got to pull the plug on it. I think I do. I got to pull the trigger and get it out. Because
I've been using it.
It's legit.
Yeah, I've been using it.
It's legit.
It's good, man. Good features and benefits. I like it. I personally use it. I mean, obviously I work here and I use their products, but I mean, it's a stylish backpack and it's got good functionality. Those are the two kind of the big things.
Yeah, and durable too. I think that's the other element to it is made from the real deal. It's basically waterproof. Like you can't go wrong. And you're going to need to order some 3,600 boxes as well when you order that sucker. Trust me, do it. The bag's waterproof. You want to throw the waterproof boxes in there to keep your ass covered. Also, a bait binder, if you're looking at this backpack, might not be a bad idea either. You can pop that in the top compartment real nice. And while you're there, make sure to check. You got to try the Reaction Tackle pliers. For the money, you can't go wrong. You've seen these pliers in my pictures for years. And it's the one pair of pliers that I haven't had to replace. You're going to love it. Trust me. And there's something for you in that bag. You throw all those pieces together, you're going to be well organized. You're going to be killing it. You can keep yourself hydrated because I got to shut up. It's getting a bit too much. It's too much.
Yeah.
It's too much for me. Cody, thank you so much. I appreciate it, dude. We're looking forward to some good stuff. We will for sure connect, and I will start working on some plans, and we'll do a kayak send. You will see the glory of a pedal kayak and the intimacy you have with the environment with it. It's pretty amazing.
I can't wait, Bobby. Thanks so much for having me on the show, and
awesome,
stay tuned for some very exciting things that come from Reaction Tackle.
I love it. I'm looking forward to every single one of them. Thanks again, Cody. Take care, bud.
Awesome, brother. Take care.
All right, bye-bye. Well, guys, that about does it for this week's Jigs and Bigs. We did a lot this week. We talked about crankbaits in our bait of the week segment, which is pretty freaking awesome. We talked about ramp rage. It's real. Don't go reading the instructions on how to assemble your new watercraft out while you're blocking the ramp, because if you do,
You're just a piece of shit. We don't like that. We'll educate you once, but after that, I'm breaking my foot off in your ass.
it's the way it works, guys. We also got to learn about strategies and planning for those competitive situations where you pick the last damn number in the lineup of boats that's about to launch. And it's always good to just have a plan, a plan B. Keep a plan B on tap at all times. These days, folks, do not fuck around. Also, we got to give away some really, really amazing shit to some fantastic folks. We covered the changes that are happening to the Jigs and Bigs online tournament series, and I'm looking forward to it, damn it. Hopefully all this is able to kind of take place. We'll kind of use October's tournament as the training wheels era to kind of like figure out some of these changes, but they will be coming soon, and that winner's circle will be coming soon as well. It's going to be a whole lot of fun. Gentlemen, do you have anything you want to jump in and throw in here as a little, put a little bow on this fancy little bitch that we got?
I got a little thank you I'd like to throw in.
Throw a fucking thank you out there.
I mentioned a couple weeks ago that my wife and I got in touch with Kari Townsend up in Minnesota.
That's right.
And she did complete the painting for us, and we got it framed. And it is now hanging up in our dining room. And it is a beautiful, beautiful photo. If you have landscape photos, fish photos, animal photos that you would like captured as a piece of artwork, contact Kari Townsend, spelled KariTownsdin. She's on Instagram.
Would it be too egotistical in my mind or anything to send Kari the image of me holding my PB all stoic by the river? Huh?
Contact her and ask.
I just wonder if that's going to come off like, wow, what kind of piece of shit is this? Because I still haven't gotten a replica done of that fish, and I'm kind of like, I thought about doing like a metal carving or something like that. Like I want to kind of be a little bit more unique with it. I kind of think I'm going to save a replica for the double digit. Probably going to happen next time I'm in Tennessee.
You may never get one, dude.
I may not. I may not, but it may happen when I'm next time in Tennessee. Caleb, we got to make that trip happen. Who knows? But I think that would be an interesting little way to do that. Maybe I'll reach out and ask her about it.
Cool. Yeah, reach out.
Yeah.
She's on Instagram. I don't think she's on Facebook, but yeah, wonderful piece of artwork. We love it. And if you're in the market for some household decorations, get in touch with Kari.
I love that. Feedback has come in from last week's show, all week this week, and people fucking love when we have Becca on the show. They really do. And by the way, Becca, thank you very much for the very nice review that you left us on Apple Podcasts. I appreciate that. That's awesome. But we played Overrated, Underrated with her, the Canadian edition last week. I don't know if you guys had listened to it yet, but a lot of people really, really enjoyed it. Like it was, they had a good time with it. And I think we might do some other shit. We might fool around. Oh, and look at this. Now we have a replica recommendation. Dark Corner Custom Cranks for replicas. Blake is stellar. Okay, good to know. Would have never put that together, that custom cranks and replicas that's in the same wheelhouse, but interesting. All right, cool.
So, quick little teaser I have.
Tease away.
I haven't told you guys. I'm going to have a pretty cool big boat product to go over and review and talk about next week.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Nice.
Yep. Yeah, I hooked up with a company, and they were gracious enough to send me some to give it a try. So I will do that this week so I can talk about it next week.
That is fucking awesome, man. I love that. I freaking love that. Guys, go out there and catch them. Make sure to tag us in your pics of any giants that you managed to catch. We love to see that stuff. And share it on our story and share it on our Facebook. I have a very weird week. Overnight tonight, my family is heading down south to South Kakalaki for a little vacation, a little R&R. And I am staying back to work. However, I have a number of outings planned, and I'm really looking forward to this. Going to spend some quality time with my dog. Might even make a little camping trip come this weekend. So we'll see. We'll see what we do. With all that said, if you guys have nothing else to throw in, I'm going to go ahead and just say thank you guys for listening to the show. As a quick reminder, do us a solid and review and rate our show over on Apple Podcasts, specifically on Apple Podcasts. They do seem to have a little bit more of a hold on the algorithm for this. Our listeners are absolutely the most amazing folks ever. And if you've got something you'd like to voice, give us a little bit of feedback, you can definitely feel free to go ahead and do that on Apple Podcasts. And that's even for you. If you listen to the show on Spotify, but you're using an Apple device, go ahead and just open up Apple Podcasts, search Jigs and Bigs, and then take a look and give us some feedback. One last thing before we go, I want to give you that phone number again, guys. The phone number are the Jigs and Bigs hotline is 413-324-8519. 413-324-8519, whether it's an FTG or you just have some information you'd like to share with us or, anything at all. Just a shout out. You have a tip you want to submit for Just the Tip, anything like that. We're glad to, take your voicemail and then utilize it on the show. And we love hearing from our listeners and our followers. We appreciate that. With all that said, that's all that we have for this week, Jigs and Bigs. Keep on catching them, and we'll see you next time. Like we always say,
tits and ass, smoke some grass.
Dope.
That's awesome.